As the Awakeners Academy kicks off their massive assessment day, each cadet gets called up to the stage to prove their worth. The instructors funnel them through a glowing gateway. Waiting inside that chamber is a captive demonic core engineered to drain their aura, gauge their raw power, and broadcast their current level and future ceiling to the entire student body. Unsurprisingly, the vast majority end up being absolute E-tier dead weight. A handful barely scrape by with a D-tier, and immediately strut around like they are the prophesized savior. Dude, take a chill pill. Right on cue, the absolute prodigy of the school finally steps up to the plate. This dude is the loaded successor of the most elite guild. So naturally, the entire crowd is treating him like he is already the star of the show. His entourage is going crazy, swearing he is about to rewrite the record books and secure his spot as the ultimate genius on campus. He struts into the chamber, oozing confidence, plants himself right in front of the demonic core, and lets his aura explode. Back outside, the crowd erupts into cheers, and right on the money his score flashes. A solid upper D tier, boasting the ceiling to hit S tier down the road. The stadium loses its mind. His crew is beaming with pride, acting like this kid just single-handedly rescued the planet. One of his buddies even glares at a silent kid named Si Chen, who is up next, and openly mocks him, claiming he is about to make a total fool of himself. But Si Chen does not even give him the time of day. Our boy just silently steps up. He strolls right into the assessment chamber just like the rest of them. However, the second he gets anywhere near the demonic, Si Chen has not even activated a single ability, yet the core starts shivering like it just crossed paths with the Grim Reaper. Instantly, the monitor flares up, revealing a high D tier. The cocky prodigy outside instantly drops that arrogant smirk, realizing this under-the-radar kid just matched his record without lifting a finger. Then Si Chen finally decides to flex a little, not even tapping into his actual strength, just the flimsiest ability card he absorbed from a random beast. The instant he triggers it, his score skyrockets straight into the C tier. Now the whole crowd is going absolutely ballistic. The bullies who just trash-talked him are left completely speechless. The instructors are glaring at the monitors, convinced the machinery is broken. But our boy is far from finished. Si Chen swaps to a heavier combat card, and this time, the core goes into a total meltdown. The entire assessment hall violently quakes. The clouds outside furiously spiral, and a massive tempest brews right above the campus. Suddenly, the monitor violently glitches. S-tier potential. The faculty immediately leap out of their seats, realizing they are witnessing the impossible. But before anyone can even process it, that single S suddenly morphs into a double S, then a triple S, and then the entire mainframe shatters. Error maximum capacity breached. Now the instructors are not just amazed, they are visibly terrified, because that artifact was designed to scale gifted rookies, not literal titans disguised in a school uniform. So now every single person is asking the exact same question. Who in the world is Si Chen? And how on earth is he this insanely overpowered? Well, here's the kicker. Si Chen is nowhere near an ordinary freshman. He is a time traveler. In his previous timeline, the entire globe was completely overrun by the abyssal forces. Mankind was shoved to the brink of extinction. Metropolises were reduced to rubble, and the population was wiped off the map until barely a soul remained. Si Chen emerged as the absolute last man standing, battling solo for years across a shattered wasteland. And after countless grueling clashes, he finally stood face, but even then there was no flawless win. So Si Chen burned every last drop of his aura, pulling off a devastating final strike, making sure to drag that overlord straight down to the abyss with him. He genuinely thought his story was over. Yet after a blinding flash, Si Chen suddenly snaps his eyes open, right inside a campus clinic. He immediately panics, knowing full well he should be 6 feet under. He scrambles up, peers out the glass, and spots everyday citizens casually strolling by, like zero tragedies ever occurred. No monsters, no ruins, no doomsday. That is the exact moment the realization hits like a truck. He has been catapulted exactly 10 years backward, right back to his early college days. While Si Chen desperately tries to piece the puzzle together, a glowing holographic interface suddenly pops up right in his face, alerting him that the ultimate authority of gluttony is now fully hardwired into his system. And that is exactly when our boy figures out an even more game-changing secret. He didn't wake up in some peaceful utopian future. Instead, the clock wound back exactly 3 years before the apocalyptic descent of the Demon Kings. And in exact wrath, the first of these nightmarish rulers is scheduled to make landfall. This absolute monster is the catalyst who rips open the gates of hell, paving the way for the rest of the demonic royalty to slaughter humanity. But now that Si Chen has defied death, a burning conviction takes hold. If he can crush wrath the second he spawns, he might just slam those hellish gates shut before they even crack open. This isn't just a second life. It's a golden ticket to rewrite destiny. Snapping back to reality, he notices something entirely new. A mysterious gluttony system interface has been hovering right in his face. From the very second he opened his eye, the glowing blue screen flashes video game-style metrics. It clocks him at level 1, while locking all his base attributes at a solid 100. This blows his mind. He has never encountered a digital overlay like this before. In his previous timeline, he survived purely on raw, awakened abilities. After all, barely 1 in 10,000 individuals ever triggers these supernatural gifts. And his current campus, the elite National Awakener University, specifically scouts those rare gems. Sadly, during his first run through college, his powers remained dormant. For 4 agonizing years, he was dead last on the campus food chain, serving as the ultimate punching bag for every power-tripping bully around. Honestly, that savage bullying is exactly why he's currently recovering in the clinic. Scanning the floating screen, he spots his active class, Lightning Assassin. A cluster of golden stars highlights his raw strength and explosive speed. His passive abilities, Lightning God and Lightning Blade, are absolutely lethal. The first one surges raw, crackling electricity through his veins, rocketing his agility up by 10 times its normal limit. The second skill concentrates that high-voltage energy into a deadly buzzing weapon. It guarantees a massive critical damage spike, and landing a direct hit on a vital organ inflicts instant paralysis. Si Chen is stunned to see he retained his endgame class from his previous life. A familiar, intoxicating current of energy is already humming under his skin, making him wonder if he kept his apocalyptic battle stats too. The realization hits him like a freight train. He must have awakened years ahead of schedule. Eager to test this theory, he prepares to activate his class. Right at that tense moment, the clinic door swings wide open. In walks Malong's buddy and an E-rank flower chanter. Malong sprints across the room, wrapping Si Chen in a massive bear hug, totally hyped that his friend is finally conscious. He frantically asks if he's feeling okay. But watching Malong completely ignore the glowing screen right in front of them makes Si Chen realize this digital status window is visible strictly to him. Scanning his friend's body, Malong's jaw practically drops when he notices every single bruise and scrape has vanished. Considering the brutal beatdown Si Chen took just yesterday, he demands to know how he healed as fast as a top-tier awakener. You see, Malong isn't just a classmate. He's his loyal roommate. And while he did unlock his powers back in college, he remained dead weight in the original timeline. The poor guy was brutally slaughtered on just the 3rd day of the apocalypse. A genuine, relieved grin spreads across Si Chen's face. Seeing his murdered best friend standing there completely unharmed is overwhelming. It is the ultimate proof that time really did rewind. Without missing a beat, Malong shoves him toward the exit, nagging him to gear up for the upcoming placement exams, which kick off first thing tomorrow morning. He reminds Si Chen that these trials are make or break for graduation, even for unawakened zeros like him. Strolling across the sunlit courtyard, Si Chen drinks in the vibrant, peaceful atmosphere, muttering about how long it's been since he last saw this many humans actually breathing. Malong shoots him a deeply concerned side-eye. The dude has been spouting nonsense all morning. Catching Si Chen drifting toward the training grounds, he nervously suggests they take a detour to avoid trouble. But Si Chen's mind is already racing with strategies. He absolutely refuses to let that horrific, blood-soaked history repeat itself. To pull off this massive rescue mission, grinding his level up is his #1 priority. And to gain that precious he has to slaughter beasts inside the infected zones. The catch: the world's top guilds have completely locked down these lucrative hunting grounds. Freelancers like him stand literally zero chance of getting in. Glancing back at his flat 100 baseline stats, he desperately tries to gauge his actual combat power against the current generation of heroes and the impending monstrous threat. To keep society from collapsing, the global government strictly categorizes every single awakener and beast into a rigid ranking system, which the hierarchy spans from the god-tier S-class all the way down to the bottom-feeding E-class. Right now, the vast majority of students on campus are hopelessly trapped in that E-rank trench. You would have to be a born prodigy or backed by a massive guild just to scrape your way. Glancing at his current stats, our boy can roughly gauge his own strength, though he is itching to see what official rank he would actually pull if he took the exam today. One thing is absolutely certain, though. He has already left Malong. The two are just casually strolling along when a heavy ball shoots out of thin air. It slams brutally into Malong's skull. The projectile was not an accident. A pack of arrogant bullies is lounging nearby, laughing at them. Worse still, this is the exact same crew that brutally hospitalized Si Chen in the past. Panic instantly washes over Malong's face. Seeing their tormentor standing there is exactly why he begged to take a different route early. The gang's ringleader, a massive meathead with a painfully punchable face, barks an order for them to run fetch him some drinks. Terrified, Malong immediately ducks his head and scrambles to obey, promising to buy whatever the guy wants. But Si Chen grabs his shoulder, stopping him dead in his tracks. He coldly states that they did nothing wrong, and the punks are the ones who need to beg for forgiveness. A menacing aura starts rolling off Si Chen's body. He doesn't even bother pulling his hands out of his pockets as he stares the gang down. Looking at this oversized bully triggers a massive flood of dark, painful memories from his previous life. This monster once shoved his head deep into a flooded sink, mockingly claiming he was just helping him trigger an awakening. They only stopped drowning him when he completely blacked out, leaving a frantic Malong to drag him out of the water. Coughing up water, a battered Si Chen had weakly asked his friend why this crew was always targeting them. But catching wind of that whisper, the brute immediately spun right back around to deliver another savage beatdown. Snapping back to the present, pure rage boils inside Si Chen over those past humiliations. So when he casually talks back to the leader, the guy totally blows a fuse. Malong is practically having a heart attack, sweating buckets, as he whispers, asking if his best friend has a sudden death wish. This meathead is Gong Cheng, an E-class brute boasting enhanced physical powers. Cheng's massive arms literally harden like rock as he and his goons march menacingly toward their prey. Si Chen knows the truth, though. Cheng only acts so tough because his older brother happens to be the powerhouse president of the student council. Strip that backing away, and this bully is complete trash. As bystanders notice the giant stepping up to Si Chen, they immediately assume a brutal, one-sided massacre is about to happen. After all, Si Chen and Ma Long are famous for being the absolute weakest losers on campus. Yet our boy doesn't flinch. Even with this hulking beast towering over him, demanding he repeat his words, Si Chen stands his ground. He coldly warns the thug to stay the hell away from him and his friend. Hearing this disrespect, he winds up and launches a bone-crushing hook straight at Si Chen's face. But in a jaw-dropping twist, our guy effortlessly catches the massive fist with a single palm. The sheer recoil force is so the entire courtyard gasps in pure disbelief. Nobody, absolutely nobody, expected the school's biggest weakling to casually deflect a superpowered. Whispers frantically ripple through the crowd. How on earth is this physically possible for an unawakened human? Utterly humiliated, Cheng screams like a madman, demanding to know if this powerless trash is actually trying to challenge him to a real fight. Right on cue, a wicked smirk spreads across Si Chen's face. Behind the scenes, his system forcefully switches his active class to the lightning assassin. He figures this loudmouth is the absolute perfect guinea pig to test drive his new lethal. Malong's jaw practically hits the floor. He had absolutely zero clue his best friend had secretly managed to awaken, watching blue electricity violently crackle around his prey. A panicked Cheng hastily coats his entire body in his supposedly indestructible demon. But before the brute can even blink, Si Chen instantly closes the gap. Keeping one hand casually stuffed in his pocket, he buries his other fist right into the bully's face. The explosive impact launches the massive thug flying through the air like a rag doll, violently crashing into a distant brick wall. The onlookers erupt into absolute hysteria. The terrifying gang leader just got utterly folded with one single strike. Even Malong is frozen in a daze, completely unable to process that the untouchable badass standing before. Despite his face being caved in, the stubborn meathead still refuses to accept reality, screaming that it was just a cowardly, cheap shot. Spitting up blood, Cheng furiously orders his lackeys to stop staring and do something about it. He commands them to jump the kid all at once. But his boys are paralyzed with fear, absolutely terrified by the suffocating monstrous pressure now pouring out of Si Chen. And they realize that Si Chen wouldn't hesitate to end them if they step out of line. As Si Chen approaches his fallen rival, Chung scrambles to his feet, hurling a desperate, wild punch straight at him. But Si Chen effortlessly catches the strike in midair, shattering his forearm with a sickening crunch. Cheng howls in agony, but the nightmare has just begun, charging up a devastating left hook. Si Chen buries his fist deep into the bully's chest, practically pulverizing his entire ribcage on impact. The sheer force launches Cheng backward like a rag doll. His clothes shred to ribbons as he slams violently against the concrete wall, immediately blacking out in a bruised and bloody heap. Ma Long watches in absolute disbelief, his jaw on the floor, as he tries to wrap his head around his friend's explosive new power. Standing over his defeated foe, Si Chen finally verifies his ultimate cheat code. He can swap character classes entirely at will. Despite the system still listing him as a mere level 1, his raw physical output easily overpowers bottom tier. This confirms he has already surpassed the rank E threshold. Still, his actual power ceiling remains a complete mystery. A sudden frown crosses his face. Why haven't his stats gone up after taking out a challenge? A dark, intrusive thought creeps in. Sparking a crackling spear of high-voltage energy, he stalks toward the unconscious bully, ready to deliver a lethal, finishing blow. Panic erupts across the hallway. Ma Long and the spectating crowd frantically scream for him to stop, begging him not to cross that point of no return. The blazing heat of the plasma blade resting against Cheng's jugular snaps him right back to reality, staring wide-eyed at the lethal electricity threat. Right at the tipping point, a striking blonde girl steps onto the scene, her voice slicing through the chaos as she commands Si Chen to stand down. She insists the bully has suffered plenty. The newcomer is none other than Ling Yu, the fiercely respected vice president of the student council, and she guarantees that after a beatdown this savage, Chung wouldn't dare breathe in his direction ever again. Si Chen dispels the weapon, scoffing at how quickly she swooped in to play savior. Honestly, he never actually planned to end the guy's life anyway. He just needed to send a terrifying, unforgettable message to back the hell off. Peeking out from their hiding spots, Cheng's lackeys are practically shaking in their boots. Witnessing that pure, unfiltered killing intent, first, they mentally swear to avoid him like the plague, unless they secretly harbor a death wish. For years, the entire academy branded them as pathetic, bottom-feeding losers. But in the span of 5 minutes, that reputation has been entirely obliterated. Bursting through the dormitory door later that night, Ma Long eagerly drops the bombshell on their 2 roommates. Si Chen has finally awakened, and he excitedly hypes up his friend's newfound status as an incredibly lethal, lightning assassin. Grinning from ear to ear, he recounts the brutal beatdown, celebrating the fact that the campus bullies will be staying far, far away from now on. But Jiang Zhuo, a rank E nucleus mage, just rolls his eyes at the exaggerated story. Pushing up his glasses, he skeptically demands to know where the supposed... He scoffs loudly, mocking the idea that such a quote-unquote powerhouse would magically vanish right after a major fight. Their 4th roommate, Xiang Yu, a flamboyant, ranky flower chanter, chimes in to back up Zhou. He smugly insists that Shi-chin probably got his teeth kicked in and scurried off to lick his wounds in secret. Ma Long bites his tongue as Zhuo continues to run his mouth, harshly reminding him of their grim reality. They share this cramped room. They are the absolute dead last, bottom 4 students of their entire graduating class. Zhuo proudly gloats that sitting at 4th from the bottom technically makes him the king of this pathetic castle. Flexing his status as the sole combat-oriented mage among them, he bluntly states that the rest of them exist simply to be his backup dancers. He laughs off the absurd rumor, declaring that a pathetic weakling like Shi-chen could never awaken such an elite high-tier class. Pumping up his own ego, Zhuo brags about his recent power spikes, claiming he might actually scrape his way into a respectable guild soon. Zhang Yu flutters his fan, cutting the tension by casually reminding the boys about tomorrow's ultimate ranking exam. He flashes a cunning smile, noting that all the fake rumors will be exposed. Meanwhile, across campus, the untouchable student council president, Gong Ting, strides out of a lethal rank A demonic training zone. The dust barely settles before he comes face to face with his younger brother, who is completely mummified in heavy, spitting venom through gritted teeth. Chang furiously demands payback, swearing he won't be able to sleep. He manipulates his older brother, claiming that a public humiliation like this is a direct spit in the face of the mighty council president himself. Ting's eyes darken with icy malice, as he promises to crush the insolent brat who dared touch his bloodline. Shortly after, Ting crosses paths with Ling Yu, who crosses her arms, questioning exactly what kind of hell he intends to unleash on the school. Ting questions if Shi-chen actually surpasses Cheng in raw power. The girl instantly dismisses the thought, reminding Ting that Cheng has already monopolized every single D-rank fighter on campus. She scoffs, claiming that ordinary students lack the clearance to enter demon domains, meaning a pathetic loser like Shi-chen is bound to stay weak forever. Chiming in, Ling Yu showers Cheng with flattery, insisting that his rapid progression is absolutely unmatched. Meanwhile, far from their arrogant chatter, Shi-chen pushes himself through a brutal downpour, hauling 100 weights on his back to amplify the agony. He understands that grueling fundamental workouts forge physical resilience, serving as the absolute bedrock for any awakener's maximum potential. Only a practically indestructible physique can handle the devastating strain of ultimate class abilities. Yet he painfully acknowledges that his current capabilities fall drastically short. Fast forward to the year 2160, and a nightmare named Wrath is fated to erupt from the... And within a mere fraction of a second, that catastrophe would wipe out countless innocent lives. Wrath was the very monster who slaughtered his beloved sister, acting as the key that shattered Hell's gates to unleash the remaining demon kings upon humanity. Burning with vengeance, Shi-chen locks onto his ultimate objective: exterminate Wrath, the very root of the apocalypse. With the clock ticking down to a mere 3 years before Wrath's catastrophic arrival, the beast must be mutating at a terrifying pace, which means Shi-chen has no choice but to evolve even faster. Suddenly, his phone buzzes through the rain and the caller ID flashes a name that makes his heart skip a beat. It's his sister, Si-yun. She sounds frantic, having just walked out of her tournament to discover a barrage of desperate missed calls from her brother. With a hopeful tone, she promises that bringing home the championship trophy will finally rewrite their miserable destiny. Hearing her voice alive and well, a massive wave of emotion chokes Shi-chen, leaving him totally speechless. Flashbacks of his desperate prayers for a second chance flood his mind, back when he was surrounded by the lifeless bodies of Si-yun and everyone he loved. Confused by the heavy silence, she asks if he is still there, since the only sound bleeding through the receiver is the relentless crashing of the... Swallowing the lump in his throat, he brushes it off as nothing, silently swearing a blood oath to shield her from harm, no matter the bloody price. He softly admits that he just really needed to hear her voice. Smiling through the phone, the young lady promises they will have a proper heart-to-heart chat the moment she gets back home. Deep into the pitch-black night, the exhausted teenager drags himself back to his dorm room, marking exactly 8 hours since his miraculous leap back in time. Stepping quietly past his snoring roommates, he splashes cold water on his face in the bathroom, finally feeling somewhat anchored to his younger body. Staring at his reflection, he hones in on the most glaring obstacle standing in his way. Rapid leveling. To pull that off, infiltrating a demon realm is absolutely mandatory. The brutal reality, however, is that elite guilds chokehold those zones, leaving regular folks without deep pockets permanently locked out of any real progression. Collapsing onto his cramped mattress, his exhausted mind races desperately, hunting for a loophole to farm monsters and harvest experience points. On top of that headache, the true nature of his newly acquired gluttony power remains a total mystery. The second sleep claims him, a mechanical chime echoes in his head. The system initialization hits 100%, and a violent force. He crashes down into a bizarre, otherworldly dimension, staring up at a towering structure that leaves him completely baffled. Sweeping his gaze across the eerie landscape, grotesque beasts begin to claw their way out of a swirling blood-red river, enclosing the area. Without missing a beat, Si Chen shifts his combat class, locking his sights onto the incoming horde. The impossible had just happened. Shoving his confusion aside, his survival instincts take over, preparing to butcher every last nightmare swarming his position. The pack of E-rank scavengers lunges for his throat, but he vanishes into a blur of motion. Slicing through the air with surgical precision, he decapitates the beasts without even breaking a sweat. Panic is completely off the table. He knows damn well that with his these low-tier E-rank grunts are nothing but child's. Watching the glowing experience points and dropped loot materialize before his very eyes, it hits him that this virtual slaughterhouse is flawlessly mimicking reality. Following a brutal killing spree, a triumphant ding signals his promotion to level 2. A wicked grin spreads across his face. This bizarre dimension actually grants him real-world experience and level, feeling every single attribute spike by 5 massive points. His smile widens into a look of absolute thrill, realizing he just hit the ultimate jackpot. Lost in his hype, a rogue monster lunges from his blind spot for a sneak attack, but with a casual flick of his wrist, he cleaves the creature perfectly in two. Realizing this infinite spawning ground is the perfect sandbox to push his combat limits to the absolute brink, the young warrior dives headfirst into the bloodbath, carving a path of destruction that rapidly skyrockets him straight to level 3. Shichen's jaw drops. He can hardly believe how insanely fast he is blowing through levels. Out of nowhere, a glowing system prompt flashes before his eyes, offering him a wild choice: devour the massive boss he just slaughtered. His eyes widen in absolute shock as it finally clicks. This right here. This is the terrifying raw power of gluttony. Without missing a beat, he thrusts his hand forward, aggressively. The second he absorbs that dark energy, a brand new class card materializes right in thin air. This specific card is a total game changer. It grants him absolute frost immunity and heavily buffs all his defenses in freezing environments. Shichen stares in pure disbelief as the massive monster morphs into a simple playing card. It hits him hard. He can literally consume his foe. The moment he lands the killing blow, he can snatch their very existence and forge them into his personal character class. A chill runs down his spine as the truth sets in. This is the exact same overpowered trick Len Yu used, and now Shichen has completely hijacked it. In this world, the rules are carved in stone. You are born with your class, and you are stuck with just one for your entire life. But right here, right now, Shichen is breaking every law of reality, effortlessly wielding 2 unique classes at the exact same time. And the terrifying part: the ceiling doesn't exist. If he keeps, his mind races trying to piece together the puzzle. Why the hell was he blessed, or cursed, with this god-tier? His gaze slowly shifts to the looming demonic tower, piercing the sky behind. Boom. The earth violently quakes. A suffocating, crushing aura erupts out of nowhere, completely paralyzing everything, and panic washes over Shichen's face. He is totally caught off guard, desperately trying to comprehend. Through the dust, a towering figure emerges. A heavily scarred warrior, gripping twin demonic greatswords. A gritty, echoing voice fills the air. The stranger smirks, claiming he is thrilled Shichen is finally awake. The guy is absolute nightmare fuel. Grimy bandages wrap around his muscular frame, and his demonic eyes burn with a piercing. Just standing near him is torture. The sheer gravitational pressure forces Shi-Chen straight to his knees, screaming one fact loudly. Memories flash back to his previous life where he bled and clawed his way up to S rank. But right now, he is barely scraping the bottom as a measly D rank. And the brutal cherry on top, this terrifying phantom standing over him, radiates the pure, unadulterated energy of an apex. Shi-Chen isn't stupid. He instantly recognizes that the power gap between them is an absolutely impossible chasm. Merely breathing the same air as this monstrous titan is violently suppressed. A hurricane of panic hits his brain. What kind of twisted, hellish dungeon is this? And why the heck is a top-tier boss lurking in the shadow? Even crazier, how did this demonic behemoth know his actual name? A terrifying realization suddenly drops. If this guy really wanted him dead, Shi-Chen. Looking back at their brief clashes, it is sickeningly obvious. This monster hasn't been fighting. He has been playing a cruel game. Every brutal swing seems pulled at the very last microsecond. The tyrant deliberately holds back, surgically avoiding every single fatal weak point. He is just batting Shi-Chen around the wasteland like a ragdoll. Suddenly, the warrior pauses, actually impressed that the rookie hasn't collapsed yet. Is this giant trying to break his spirit and force him to surrender? The towering menace then orders Shi-Chen to seriously reconsider his options. The ultimatum is simple. Stay chained here forever to guard this demonic spire and offer the boss claims as a once-in-a-lifetime honor. But Shi-Chen fiercely spits in the face of that deal. There is absolutely no chance he is rotting away in this cursed hellscape. Before the words even leave his mouth, a blinding flash of steel violently slices through his left arm, painting the dirt crimson. The terrifying giant sneers, mocking Shi-Chen's false sense of security. He coldly warns the boy that his mercy is running completely dry. The only reason he hasn't completely obliterated him yet is because Shi-Chen is the only living soul capable of. Suddenly Shi-Chen catches sight of raw life force draining from the surrounding corpses, surging directly into the warrior as his combat power violent. The atmosphere turns suffocatingly dark. The boss steps forward, declaring that he will ask for his submission one final. Gravity itself fractures. Massive chunks of earth are forcefully ripped from the ground, levitating into gigantic boulders, pointed straight at Shi-Chen's head. Surrender to this twisted dimension, or get pulverized into bloody paste. But that threat, it only ignites a blazing inferno of pure rage in Shi-Chen's gut. Crackling lightning explodes across his entire body. He launches himself forward like a bullet, screaming that he chooses violence. He weaves through the raining meteor storm of jagged rocks, charging headfirst into the belly of the beast. While he was getting trashed, earlier, Shi-Chen's brain was working overtime, surgically dissecting every single flaw in the boss's attack. He pinpointed the ultimate weakness. Right before every colossal strike, the giant hesitates for exactly 0.4 seconds. That microsecond is all he needs. By reading the precise tilt of the enemy's wrist, Shi-Chen can completely predict the trajectory, executing his strategy flawlessly. Shi-Chen phases right through the monster's swing. He materializes in the enemy's blind spot, channeling every ounce of his power into one devastating all-or-nothing strike. He gambles it all on a tiny opening. The beast suffers a mere 0.2-second lag after attacking. But for Shi-Chen, that fraction of a heartbeat is more than enough time to strike. The timing is absolute perfection. He closes the distance, catching his opponent completely off guard before the creature can even reset its stance. With a fierce battle cry, he triggers the lightning blade skill, compressing raw, crackling electricity into a blinding weapon designed to instantly paralyze the target. But Shi-Chen isn't delusional. He knows a D-rank hunter like him can't actually kill an S-rank nightmare. Instead, he banks on the massive electrical surge, buying him just a few precious seconds of paralysis. Pushing off the monster's chest, Shi-Chen instantly leaps back. He immediately activates his Lightning God ability, multiplying his agility by 10 times, leaving a brilliant trail of azure sparks behind him. He streaks across the battlefield like a literal speedster, desperately racing toward the only exit. During their high-speed clash, he had mentally mapped out the entire cavern. He noticed a solitary, glowing crack in the suffocating darkness, the one beacon of light that practically screamed it was the way out. But right as he launches himself toward freedom, the light simply evaporates into thin air. He is deadlocked inside this nightmare with the terrifying S-rank. The towering warrior slams his massive twin blades into the stone floor, erupting a violent shockwave that violently shakes the entire cave. A deep, mocking voice echoes through the cave, revealing that the exit was nothing more than a cruel phantom illusion he had planted. He shatters the boy's hope entirely, declaring that nobody simply walked. Boiling with murderous rage, the juggernaut pulses with thick, suffocating dark energy. Surprisingly, though, the beast praises Si Chen. He acknowledges the kid's terrifying combat IQ. The crushing, murderous intent suddenly vanishes. The warrior's tone softens drastically as he makes a wild claim that Si Chen is the only glimmer. A glowing system panel finally reveals his true identity. He is Purgatory Rakshasa, a legendary S-rank star warrior. As his raging aura burns away his tattered hood, Si Chen finally catches a clear glimpse of Rakshasa's face, and his blood runs completely cold. He recognizes those features immediately. It's the exact same face as Lanyu, the absolute sovereign of the Demon Kings. Rakshasa gives a respectful nod, highly impressed by Si Chen's ice-cold composure, while staring absolute death right in the eyes. Si Chen remembers the terrifying day he crossed blades with the Demon King Lanyu. During that bloodbath, the tyrant had effortlessly swapped between multiple apocalyptic tier classes, completely overwhelming Si Chen with his monstrous first. One of those horrific transformations was exactly what he's looking at right now. A demonic visage, crowned with two wickedly curved horns jutting from the skull. The puzzle pieces snapped together in Si Chen's mind. Was this warrior swallowed whole by Lanyu's gluttony ability? And since Si Chen recently absorbed that very same gluttony power, it suddenly dawns on him this entire demonic dimension is located inside his own soul. Rakshasa lets out a booming laugh, completely blown away by the kid's razor-sharp intuition. He applauds Si Chen for connecting the invisible dots, declaring that the boy has thoroughly proven his worth. He is absolutely worthy of inheriting every... While Si Chen desperately tries to process this, the towering warrior suddenly summons a dazzling triple S-rank artifact, the mythical Key of the Void. Rakshasa holds up the glowing relic, revealing it as the one and only way to unlock the monolithic gates of the demonic tower. He drops a massive bombshell, explaining that the Demon King Lan Yu used his powers to consume countless The absolute strongest among those nightmares are currently chained up inside the towering spire behind him. Gently he hands the ultimate artifact over to Si Chen. His instructions are brutally simple. Devour every single monstrosity in there. Deeply suspicious, Si Chen demands to know why a monster is essentially handing him a massive cheat code. Rakshasa gives a solemn smile, explaining that even among the demonic tribes, the line between heroes and monsters still exists. His voice breaks with pure anguish as he reveals that the Demon Kings mercilessly slaughtered his... They butchered his people simply to feed their endless hunger, and he has been rotting in this void for ages, praying for a chance at bloody vengeance. Staring intensely at the young hunter, he vows that his long-awaited retribution is finally here, and that ultimate weapon of revenge is Si Chen. The ancient warrior then mutters something incredibly cryptic, whispering that a certain someone was absolutely right all along. It turns out, destiny has chosen. Si Chen's jaw practically hits the floor. Desperate for answers, he demands to know exactly who Rakshasa is talking about. But the warrior just points toward the ominous spire, declaring that every single truth the boy... If he wants those answers, he's going to have to rip them out of the tower himself. Suddenly, Rakshasa's physical body begins to shatter into golden particles, willingly sacrificing his soul so panicking at the sight of his ally fading away, Si Chen shouts out, but Rakshasa delivers his final, booming command. From this moment forward, he must forge himself into an absolute, unstoppable... Right before dissolving into raw, glowing energy, he leaves Si Chen with a massive ultimatum. He absolutely has to rip open the gates of the demonic tower, He needs to consume every single thing lurking inside. Those monsters are the absolute most twisted, bloodthirsty freaks breathing in this universe. Still, he violently pushes Si-Chen to swallow the pain. He drills it into the kid's skull that his ultimate destiny is to stand alone at the absolute pinnacle of this world. And he cannot stop until he ruthlessly swallows every last one of those tyrannical demon kings whole. Fading completely into pure mist, he leaves behind one. Why? Because Si-Chen's unbreakable willpower is absolutely insane, making him the only soul worthy of wielding such god-tier might. The second he absorbs Rakshasa, a massive shockwave hits. Si-Chen instantly skyrockets to level 10. The system chimes in, dropping another massive bombshell. He just inherited both of Rakshasa's legendary twin blades. Clenching his fists, Si-Chen swears a blood oath to the fallen. As the chaotic energy finally stabilizes in his veins, a glowing power card suddenly flashes across his interface. He just bagged 2 insane new abilities. The terrifying Bone Grip Ruin, and the Bone Grip Ruin is absolutely wicked. It forcefully drains the raw stamina and brute strength straight out of surrounding corpses. Meanwhile, Triple Gravity Strike is a brutal physics breaker. It warps the literal gravitational pull around his targets to crush them in 3 distinct ways. We are talking light, heavy, and absolute overload. Feeling the sheer weight of Rakshasa's sacrifice burning inside him, suddenly the illusion shatters. He hears his frantic roommates practically tearing their throats out, violently shaking him awake. Jolting upright, he realizes sunlight is already blasting through the windows. It is morning. Si-Chen blinks in total disbelief. How the hell did he teleport back to his bed so insanely fast? Even crazier, every single brutal gash on his body has vanished without a trace. He stares at his flawless skin, seriously wondering if that entire nightmare was just a hallucination. But then his heart drops. He spots the exact same twin power cards he ripped out of the demonic realm, floating right there in his glowing status window. The god-tier loot he literally clawed out of a dreamscape actually crossed over into the waking world with him in a single night. Sitting comfortably at level 10, a savage grin creeps onto his face. What kind of insane rank is the Academy gonna slap on him now? Right on cue, Zuo struts over, flashing a totally punchable smirk. He instantly starts running his mouth, claiming Ma Long was gassing Si-Chen up way too much last night. Leaning in close, he sarcastically asks if the kid is plotting to steal his glorious crown as dorm king. Then he arrogantly motions for them to hit the testing grounds. He wants to see exactly what kind of garbage Si-Chen is really. Marching toward the massive battle arena, Zhou obnoxiously reminds the crew that, yeah, they might all be stuck in the miserable E-rank trench, but he is proudly chilling at mid-E tier, vastly superior to their pathetic low E status. He casually stuffs his face with a donut while bragging. Chewing loudly, he lectures them about how the power gap between sub-tiers is an absolute joke. In his mind, he could easily wipe the floor with 10 low E scrubs at the exact same time. Zul practically bounces off the walls, hyping himself up that his rank must have skyrocketed since finals. Ignoring the clown, Ma Long suddenly locks eyes with Si-Chen. He seriously tells his buddy to stop hiding his fangs and go completely all out today. He begs him to smash straight into D rank, just to terrify the living daylights out of their cocky room. Giving a chill nod, Si-Chen totally agrees to aim for that D rank milestone. A short walk later, the massive steel doors of the testing arena loom in front of them. Zuo's jaw hits the floor. The entire student body is practically all. Absolute panic immediately sets in. While his friends are visibly sweating bullets, Si-Chen just stands there cold as ice, looking completely dead inside. Zuo and the boys are half a second away from digging their own graves, when the aggressive thugs shockingly fold in half, bowing respectfully directly to Si-Chen. They actually address him as their big brother. Zuo's brain literally short-circuits. He stammers like an idiot, totally clueless as to why. Ma Long just rolls his eyes, loudly reminding the idiot that he literally just told him about Si-Chen's insane rampage the night before, without even giving the Boeing goons a single. Out of nowhere, his path is blocked by a notoriously arrogant punk, Jiang Zheng. The guy glares at him, dropping a bombshell. He heard every single gruesome detail about how Si Chen brutally humiliated Chung yesterday. Getting right up in his grill, Jung practically spits in Si Chen's face, screaming to ask if he has any clue who he just messed with. He fiercely barks out that Chung is basically untouchable because he is Ting's fierce. While this loudmouth is absolutely losing his mind, Zhuo and the crew are cowering behind a pillar 50 feet away, whispering in total panic about why the hell the school's top dog is suddenly gunning for their. Completely invading his personal space, Jiang Chun slowly leans into Shi Chen's ear. In a low, chilling whisper, he drops the act, revealing that he possesses a bizarre, mutated sense of smell, allowing him to sniff. Yet he doesn't catch even a whiff of greatness from Si Chen. He smirks, claiming that all he catches from him is the foul reek of an absolute lifelong loser. Si Chen instantly shatters the guy's towering ego, casually asking if he's some kind of mutt. That one jab nearly makes Jian snap. He explodes, screaming at Si Chen to say that to his face. But right before he can throw a punch, Ting steps into the fray, ordering Jian to stand down. Ting calmly states that he already looked into the whole mess, and it's crystal clear that Chong drew first blood. Therefore, suffering the consequences is just the natural price for crossing the line. Jian bites his tongue and backs away, on Ting's command, but he and Shi Chen share a deadly, unblinking glare. Right on cue, a veteran examiner steps up to the podium, announcing that the aptitude trials are about to kick off. He instructs the crowd that they will run through the roster by student identification numbers, urging everyone to step forward swiftly the second their name echoes through the hall. Ting then shoots Jian a look, telling him to focus entirely on his upcoming evaluation. Truthfully, Ting considers Si Chen completely beneath his notice. Off in the shadows, Ling Yu and a deeply unsettling stranger are quietly observing the trials unfold. The mysterious man leans in, asking Ling Yu if she's lurking around because she spotted a hidden gem. A slight smile crosses her face as Ling Yu assures him that this evaluation is going to be quite the show. Fast forward 1 hour, and Zhou's name finally rings out. He marches into the testing gateway, burning with the desperate hope to prove he's actually leveled up. Turns out the trial plunges each student alone into an artificial, sealed-off demon cavern. At the core of this dark chamber pulses a demon heart, an artifact designed to drain and measure pure aura. The challenger must unleash every ounce of their power right at the core, pushing it to its absolute breaking point. That pulsing demon heart then funnels the raw pressure straight through heavy cables into the monitoring rig. From there, the raw numbers flash across the massive monitors. Zhuo burns through his reserves, but as the results light up the board for the entire academy to witness, it cruelly reveals he's still stuck at a mediocre mid-tier E rank. The real showstopper, however, is a student's hidden potential. The moment Zhou's ceiling flashes across the screen, it lands squarely at C rank. In this world, anyone flashing top-tier potential is practically guaranteed to catch the government's watchful eye. But locked into a mid-tier C rank ceiling, Zhuo's future is essentially a dead end. He drags his feet out of the evaluation chamber, absolutely crushed. He genuinely believed he had broken past his limits. Tears stream down his face as he slumps back into the crowd, where Ma Long desperately tries to cheer him up by pointing out their own pathetic scores. They sigh, admitting they couldn't even sniff D rank either, having just wrapped up their own miserable runs. Sadly, both Ma Long and Shang Yu maxed out at a measly low-tier C rank ceiling. The crowd starts whispering, wondering if anyone will actually break the mold, right as another student's potential suddenly spikes to B rank. A girl bursts out of the testing zone, practically glowing with joy, flaunting her shiny new D rank status and B rank ceiling. Moments later, Jian steps up to face the music. He struts out like a king. He didn't just hit D rank, his potential blasted all the way to a staggering A rank. Ma Long and the rest of the crew are practically sobbing now. Jian marks the 8th D rank prodigy of the day, leaving them rotting in the E rank trenches. Even the hardened proctors are caught off guard by the sheer volume of D rank prodigies flooding the roster this cycle. Sure, these kids are completely green when it comes to real bloodshed. But these numbers alone have the examiners convinced that the final graduation class is going to be an absolute bloodbath. Then Ting's name echoes through the speakers, and the entire room holds its breath to witness his true power. Everyone basically treats Ting like royalty. After all, he is the golden boy of the legendary Imperial Guild. Back during his freshman trials 2 whole years ago, he easily shattered the D-rank barrier. Now the crowd is dying to know what kind of monster he's evolved into. The second he steps into the shadows of the testing chamber, Ting makes a calculated choice to cap his own power. He wants to save his ultimate trump card for the brutal graduation showdown, aiming to send shockwaves through the academy when it matters most. Deep down, he's plotting to crown himself as the single most dominant prodigy in academy history. He casually pours his aura into the pulsing core, and the monitors instantly light up. The board proudly declares him a high-tier D rank, but it's his potential that steals the breath from the room. A flawless S rank. The crowd erupts into absolute chaos. Students grip their hair in sheer disbelief, witnessing history unfold since Ting just became the Academy's very first S-class prodigy. Jian shamelessly kisses up to Ting, hyping him to the moon, but Si Chen-hei barely even blinks. Up in the stands, the examiners are completely paralyzed by shock, already scrambling to report this miracle to the higher-ups. Let's face it, an S-rank awakener is a generational unicorn in this world. The government will undoubtedly wrap him in bubble wrap and assign top-tier protection. Toss in the fact that his dad leads the almighty Imperial Guild, and Ting is practically untouchable. Everyone knows this bombshell is going to dominate the national news by morning. Up in the VIP section, the mysterious guy watching alongside Ling Yo smirks, admitting this year's batch is actually packing some serious heat. He nudges her playfully, asking if she had some inside scoop on Ting's S-rank potential before showing up. By the way, this enigmatic spectator, that is Yuan Long, the university's powerhouse principal. But Ling Yo just shoots him a cool glance, casually dropping the bomb that she didn't come here just for Ting. Actually, the one she is dying to see in action is Si Chen. Right on cue, the loudspeakers blare, calling Si Chen to the testing stage. As he strides forward, Jian can't resist taking a cheap shot, sneering at him to somehow make their dorm proud. He sarcastically begs Si Chen not to embarrass them with another pathetic bottom-of-the-barrel E rank. Jian chuckles brutally, reminding him that if he flops again, their entire roommate circle will become the Academy's ultimate punching bag. He makes it crystal clear they will be a total laughingstock during the upcoming graduation trials. Swallowing his nerves, Malong finally steps up to bat for his friend. He fires back at Jian, boldly claiming that Si Chen is about to drop everyone's jaws the second he steps into that grading chamber. Standing nearby, Zoe nervously bites her lip, genuinely praying. The instant the giant demon eye locks onto Si Chen, its terrifying expression literally twitches. In this cutthroat era, awakeners have to flex their raw power to catch the eyes of elite guilds if they want a decent future. The upcoming graduation test is a brutal, squad-based survival game, capped at 10 members per team, with free rein on who you recruit. The stakes. The winning squad gets a golden ticket, a guaranteed draft into the country's undisputed #1 faction, the legendary Imperial Guild. So this ranking test isn't just about stroking egos. It is literally a life-or-death audition. While Si Chen is still trapped inside the chamber, Jian wastes zero time building Ting's super team for the finals. He ruthlessly snatches up all 9 of the freshman year's D-rank students. With Ting's raw power and Cheng backing them up, Jian is obnoxiously certain they have first place in the bag. After all, drafting the perfect roster is the entire point of this flashy assessment. While Jian's elite squad pops imaginary champagne Malong, and the rejects huddle awkwardly in the corner, the harsh reality sinks in. They are the textbook definition of cannon fodder. Minutes drag by and the crowd starts murmuring, wondering why the machine hasn't spit out a single reading for Si Chen yet. He has been locked in there way too long, and the peanut gallery is already throwing shade. They start laughing, joking that his stats are so astronomically since he is basically the final candidate. People start grabbing their backpacks, ready to ditch this snooze fest. Everyone figures the event is wrapped up and ready for the history books. Jian even claps Ting on the shoulder, telling him to ignore this clown show so they can hit up a karaoke bar. Ting nods, but just as they turn their backs, the massive digital display violently flickers to life. When the bold letters finally lock into place, the entire arena goes dead silent. A high-tier D-rank, Malong absolutely loses his mind, screaming his lungs out that he told them so, while Jian and Ting freeze, staring at the board like they have seen a ghost. Inside the pitch-black room, Si Chen cuts off the energy flow to the demon heart, sending the system into a frantic, flashing frenzy. The automated voice demands a retest to accurately measure his true ceiling. The craziest part, Si Chen was only flexing his vanilla base-level class. He stares at his hands, genuinely blown away, that his raw, level 10 stats are already matching high-tiered. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he decides to swap to the Infernal Death King. Ironically, the weakest class he has devoured so far. He steps up for a redo, and this time the display flashes a solid C rank. The entire room absolutely loses its mind. Even Ting and Jian are left completely speechless, staring blankly at the glowing screen. Jian sweats bullets, desperately trying to convince himself that the hardware is just busted. Even the proctors are scratching their heads. They've never witnessed a fluctuating score in their entire careers. Deep inside the scanner, the demon heart is practically shivering. Si Chen smirks, realizing his other two hidden classes will easily shatter that C tier. If his baseline skills are already this intense, he decides to crank it up. He instantly swaps over to his Rakshasa class. He just wants to test the absolute limits of his raw, unfiltered strength. The sheer pressure nearly splinters the demon heart on the spot, and ominous as the crowd panics, struggling to grasp the situation. Ma Long and his buddies are completely paralyzed by awe. They instantly realize they have been sharing a dorm room with BAM! The monitor violently glitches, locking on to an S-rank potential that sends chills straight down everyone's spine. But that S-rank barely holds. The display spazzes out, rapidly flashing angry red hazard signs. It rapidly skyrockets to a triple S rank, and the gauge looks like it still wants to climb even higher. Finally, the hardware completely flatlines. A critical error pops up, screaming that the maximum load has been severely breached. The entire rig bursts into flames. The proctors sprint over in sheer panic, bursting into the testing chamber. They are greeted by a truly mind-boggling sight. The legendary demon heart is completely scorched to ash, leading them to guess it just fried from a massive power overload. Si Chen casually turns on his heel and strolls out, keeping the real truth about the relic completely to himself. The reality, he flexed way too hard and literally choked the core to death with his raw aura. But he bagged an insane hidden loot. He actually managed to devour the core's essence during the chaos. Since it was harvested from an A-tier beast, that heart possessed a radar that could gauge the power levels of anything within a 100-meter radius. Better yet, it triggers an instant threat alarm whenever a predator steps into that drop zone. The second he exits the booth, Si Chen boots up his new skill. Right on cue, glowing, he mentally notes how ridiculously overpowered this is. Now absolutely nobody can hide their true strength from him. Scanning Ting the system reveals he is secretly a solid mid-tier C rank, proving the top dog has been severely sandbagging. A moment later, the lead proctor emerges, holding the charred remains, announcing the core simply expired from critical strain. With their main hardware officially busted, they are forced to completely axe the evaluations for the rest of the day. The staff aggressively brushes off Si Chen's insane scores. As a system glitch, they wave off the remaining students, telling them to return tomorrow morning, when a fresh scanner will be prepped and ready. Ignoring the staff drama Ma Long, and the boys tackle Si Chen with absolute hero worship. They practically offer to buy him a royal feast, but our guy just calmly suggests they head back to their room and chill. Right on cue, Jian struts over, loudly barking that he knew the machine was totally bugged from the start. To him, there is zero chance a total scrub like Si Chen could ever hit C rank. He gets right in his face, demanding to know how he intends to pay for the destroyed relic. As Jian spews endless trash talk, Si Chen silently calculates the quickest way to permanently snap the loudmouth's jaw. Suddenly, Ting steps out from the shadows, firmly commanding Jian to back the hell off. He coldly states that there is absolutely no room for disrespect toward their newest teammate. Jian's jaw practically hits the floor the second he hears the word teammate drop, while the bully short-circuits Ting, extends a hand to Si Chen, officially inviting him into his elite squad to crush the final graduation exams. Ting confidently declares that they are destined to absolutely shatter the Academy's all-time high score. But Si Chen just stares right through him, giving the top student a wildly unbothered side-eye. Jian spirals into a full-blown panic attack, realizing that adding Si Chen means someone else is definitely getting booted to the curb. He starts sweating profusely, utterly terrified. Everyone in the school knows that riding with Ting is a guaranteed one-way ticket to claiming gold in the graduation combat trials. The mere thought of a nobody like Si Chen stealing his golden ticket makes Jian's blood violently boil. Tons of students would gladly empty their wallets just for a shot at joining. Still, Jian knows better than to cross Ting, so he pastes on a fake smile and plays the welcoming buddy. With an incredibly plastic grin, he claps Si Chen on the shoulder, but Si Chen instantly swats the hand away. He bluntly states he has zero interest in playing on their team. The blatant rejection leaves both Ting and Jian entirely speechless. Snapping out of it, Jian totally loses his, reminding him that they run this school. By turning them down, he is making a massive career-ending mistake. Unfazed, Si Chen shoots back that their little status means absolutely nothing to him. He simply pivots on his heel, ordering them to stay out of his lane, because they are nothing but an annoying headache. As he strolls away, the surrounding crowd's jaws practically hit the floor. Nobody can fathom actually turning down the untouchable heavyweight president of the student council. Whispers echo through the hallway. A few kids speculate that the lone wolf, especially considering his solid, mid-tier C-rank evaluation. Regardless, the bystanders are absolutely buzzing, dying to see how this drama unfolds, pointing out that the guy clearly dances to the beat of his own drum. Watching from the sidelines. Long sighs in pure disappointment over he was genuinely banking on them breaking every single academy record this semester. Ling Yu simply smirks, arguing that this brewing rivalry is way more entertaining. Ting has never been told no in his privileged life. That outright rejection is a giant flashing deck. She warns Long that the golden boy is definitely not someone you want as an enemy. Back with the top dogs, Jian is still fuming. He stubbornly insists that Si Chen's viral moment was but Ting narrows his eyes. He admits there is a real chance the assessment was dead on. And even if there is merely a 1 in 100 million probability, he refuses to let anybody steal his crown. Jian scoffs, labeling their new rival as a complete nobody who lacks actual field experience. Meanwhile, they are battle-hardened elites. They have secretly raided the demon sector alongside Ting on multiple occasions. Eager for blood, Jian volunteers to beat some respect into the kid. Ting immediately snaps at him, offended that his lackey thinks he operates that cheap. Jian instantly backpedals, stammering an apology. Brushing past him, Ting mutters that his mood for karaoke is completely ruined. He casually tells his right-hand man that the squad can figure out their own plans for the evening. But right before leaving, he drops a heavy hint. Whatever goes down tonight is strictly off his radar. A wicked grin spreads across Jian's face. He instantly catches the unspoken green light to hunt down their target. Barely 10 minutes pass before one of his goons reports that their prey has already skipped campus. Hearing he headed home, Jian practically jumps at the chance. With their target completely off school grounds, it is the absolute perfect stage for an ambush. Miles away, Si Chen casually strolls down the pavement completely unfazed. His mind drifts back to his previous life. He recalls a very specific squad bumping into the calamity known as Wrath, deep within a monster zone. That entire crew was erased from existence. Shortly after the beast breached the dungeon, and those scattered memories are his only clues. To pinpoint the monster's current whereabouts, he has engineered a bulletproof strategy, but big moves require serious cash. His first stop, the Mithril Monster Exchange, a branch of the legendary Mithril Guild that is destined to dominate the nation's resource market. For any awakener out there, premium gear is the ultimate game changer when it comes to raw power. And this specific hub is the ultimate black market for flipping high-tier loot. Right now, it is his absolute quickest path to getting rich. He slaps down the jagged fangs he ripped from the recent raid. The guy behind the glass barely gives him the time of day. He scoffs, claiming the loot looks like total junk. But suddenly, a pink-haired rookie clerk steps up. Her eyes widen as she identifies the cargo. It is an incredibly rare drop from an E-rank cloud-type beast. Flipping through the archives, she confirms these specific fangs can be forged into a deadly elemental scepter, or crushed. The obnoxious clerk snaps at the woman to quit nagging, scoffing that trash-tier E-rank garbage isn't worth his time. He brags that this high-end exchange exclusively caters to the elite VIP crowd. In his mind, his hands are meant only for premium gear D-rank and above. No wonder he refuses to even acknowledge a measly E-rank scrap. But beneath that arrogance, the guy is sweating bullets over his delayed promotion to supervisor, especially since big-spending whales have been practically non-existent lately. It absolutely boils his blood that he keeps getting stuck dealing with nobodies who can't pad his paycheck. Brushing off the transaction, he dumps the worthless order onto his rookie assistant Lee and struts away. "Keep grinding," he tosses back with a patronizing smirk. "I'm expecting big things from you." Lee quietly tallies up Shi Chen's payout, carefully sliding the cash his way with a warm warning. The beast fangs fetch a solid 18,000 bucks. A wave of relief washes over Shi Chen as he realizes rent. Before he can leave, the polite rookie asks if he needs help with anything else. Without missing a beat, Shi Chen, Lee's jaw practically hits the floor. Her eyes widen at the sheer, terrifying aura radiating from the blade, stammering that she's never encountered anything like it. Trembling, she estimates the monstrous weapon has to be at least a B rank, maybe even an A rank treasure. Catching a glimpse of the glowing steel, the arrogant clerk violently shoves his way back to the front. Drooling, he loudly boasts that in all his years slaving away at the guild, he's never once laid eyes on a masterpiece of this caliber. Suddenly, a sharp-dressed guy with striking blue hair steps from the shadows. "You're right about that," he interrupts, "because that weapon you're drooling over, it's not B rank. It's not even A rank." The loudmouth clerk instantly freezes. The manager's eyes lock onto the blade. He identifies the sinister metal immediately, forged in the heart of the Purgatory lands. A legend. The employees basically short-circuit. Ignoring their shock, the boss enthusiastically grabs Shi Chen's hand, instantly elevating the ragged student to ultra VIP status. Whisking him away to a private luxury lounge, the executive practically begs Shi Chen to name his price for whatever he desires. But Shi Chen is already a step ahead. Staring at the man, he instantly recognizes the sharp-eyed manager from his past life, the infamous Qingji. The heavy mahogany doors click shut. Qingji leans in, probing for the endgame. What's the play here? Without blinking, Shi Chen demands a cool 1 million. Qingji nearly chokes on his breath. 1 million for a legendary artifact? He stares at the kid like he's crazy, explaining that an authentic S-rank drop could easily command tens of millions on hell. Tossed onto an auction block, this demonic blade would spark a literal bloodbath among the city's billionaires, but Shi Chen cuts off the lecture with an icy glare. He isn't selling a damn thing. This sword is strictly collateral. He's leveraging the mythical blade for a fast $1 million cash loan, promising to wipe the debt clean. The veteran appraiser is utterly speechless. Who in their right mind pawns a god-tier weapon for petty cash? Alarm bells ring in Qingji's head. There is absolutely no way an average broke college kid possesses this. If he's dead set on getting the blade back, he must be planning to wield the monstrous weapon himself. Qingji's gears spin at warp speed. Is this kid a hidden heir to a top-tier guild? A secret prodigy playing dress-up? Whoever he is, he's masking a monstrous amount of raw power. Watching his unwavering composure, Qingji bets his entire career that the teenager sitting across from him is a ticking time bomb of potential. Unbothered by the scrutiny, Shi Chen doubles down. "Do we have a deal?" Shi Chen asks smoothly. Instead of answering immediately, the boss quietly commands his rookie assistant to clear the room. The heavy silence breaks as Qingji lays his cards on the table. Based on his razor-sharp instincts, he's already deduced that Shi Chen is a senior at the National Awakener University, and graduation is right around the corner. The shrewd businessman connects the dots. He knows, and that exact tournament, it kicks off in precisely 1 month. Even better, the grand prize for crushing the competition is a guarantee. The timeline and the cash amount line up too perfectly to be a coincidence. Staring deep into the student's eyes, Ching Jin realizes this crazy kid is banking entirely on massacring the competition to take home the crown. The manager chuckles. He sees the burning desperation for immediate cash. If Shi Chen just waited 30, yet he's risking an irreplaceable S-rank artifact just to get his hands on some liquid funds right now. Thrilled by the kid's insane gamble, Ching Jin slams his hand on the desk. "I'll do you one better," he grins, offering an immediate upfront payout of $1.5 million in pure cash. 0% interest, the boss declares, waiving off any fees and framing the massive loan as a simple peace offering between future friends. The generous offer catches Si Chen completely off guard, especially when Z leans in, swearing absolute silence regarding their shadowy transaction. But there is a catch. The broker smoothly requests the right of first refusal for any future deals, dangling the ultimate VIP treatment as bait to keep the young hunter exclusively tied to his syndicate. Respect genuinely flares within Si Chen. He marvels at how the mastermind managed to pinpoint his exact desperation, working off absolutely nothing but breadcrumbs. Instead of twisting the knife and exploiting a cornered man, Z laid down and it clicks instantly. That razor-sharp foresight is exactly how this guy engineered the most powerful black market empire on the planet. Staring down the road, our hero realizes that crushing Wrath will require exactly this caliber of heavyweight backing. A glowing magical seal cements the agreement, and millions of credits instantly flood into Si Chen's bank balance. But before they part ways, the guildmaster casually wonders how the kid expects to survive the upcoming graduation trials empty-handed. Noting that his legendary blade is now locked up in collateral, Z graciously offers full access to their armory, though he admits that is when Si Chen absolutely paralyzes the entire room. The boss, the receptionist, and the snobby clerk alike, by calmly brushing off the generous handout. With a flash of steel, he summons a second mythical blade out of thin air. Casually, the staff bow deeply in absolute reverence as the mysterious powerhouse strolls out the glass door. Capitalizing on the moment, Z instantly elevates the polite Li to head manager for successfully. The promotion forces the arrogant clerk to swallow a profoundly bitter pill. Suddenly, our protagonist pivots on his heel, announcing he actually needs to make a quick purchase. Fast forward a bit, and we find the teenager hopping out of a cab near a bustling subway depot. Staring at the terminal, grim memories of his previous timeline flood back, specifically how crushing poverty constantly choked his existence. Back then, fresh out of every major faction slammed their doors in his face, forcing him to scrape by on grueling, dead-end gigs just to keep a roof from collapsing over their heads. He and his little sibling were practically drowned. Yoon actually secured a golden ticket to the prestigious Global Arts and she plastered on a brave face, claiming her only dream was to stick by her big brother's side forever. But he knew the brutal truth: she shattered her own future just to spare him the crippling tuition fees. Snapping back to the present, the young man anxiously scans the crowd, puzzled as to suddenly a familiar musical voice chimes from right behind him, playfully scolding him for constantly camping out at the department instead of waiting by the arrival chute like a normal person. She tilts her head cheekily, asking if his brain is malfunctioning from too many graveyard shifts. The sheer sight of her breathing smiling vibrant hits him like a freight train, completely paralyzing him as he struggles to process the mere. She snaps her fingers, demanding to know if he is zoning out, which finally breaks his trance and sends him lunging forward to crush her in a desperate, breath-stealing embrace. Tears prick his eyes as a massive, genuine grin breaks across his face. 7 agonizing years of grief instantly melt away in her presence. Gasping for air under his bear hug, she ruthlessly attacks his ribs with tickles to break free, immediately shoving her heavy luggage against his chest as eyeing him suspiciously, she points out his bizarre behavior lately, ruthlessly prodding to see if he finally asked out only to crash and burn in spectacular fashion. He laughs off the ridiculous accusation. Navigating the neon-lit sidewalks, the brother finds himself utterly captivated by the innocent, radiant joy on her face, silently swearing a blood oath that the tragedies of the past will never ever touch her again. Meanwhile, the campus bully and his gang of thugs are busy laying down a vicious trap, banking on the fact that their target always walks this exact same route on his daily commute. With a twisted smirk, the ringleader orders his goons to violently crush the kid the millisecond he steps into the shadows, desperate to make the upstart choke on the sheer cost of defying his authority. A nervous henchman quickly pipes up, however, pointing out the massive crowd of student enforcers they dragged along. He stammers that unleashing such a brutal might accidentally beat the poor guy to death. Shrugging off the warning, the tyrant growls that a simple beating was the Jian demands his goons beat our boy to a bloody pulp, aiming to permanently shatter his limbs so he misses out entirely, ensuring he is completely sidelined for the crucial graduation trials just 14 days away. The arrogant bully brags about the cutting back to our hero Yoon, points out her brother's intensely bizarre behavior over the last 48 hours. She gently prods him, wondering if the soul-crushing weight of the upcoming exams is finally breaking his spirit. Desperate to lift his spirits, the sweet sister urges him to snap out of his funk and stay strong through the storm, throwing his own comforting words of wisdom right back at him. She reminds him that life is a marathon, promising that brand new doors will eventually. She even goes the extra mile, softly humming a sweet melody, just to chase his dark clouds away. Saichin is absolutely blown away by her sharp intuition, since she literally sensed his internal shift the second he realizes the poor girl has zero clue about his recent awakening, and in her mind, they are still scraping the bottom of the barrel in absolute poverty. Secretly, Yoon worries her big brother is bottling things up, assuming he just feels awkward venting his struggles to a girl. Lurking in the shadows, Jian and his scumbag crew are caught off guard when they spot a cute girl tagging along with their target. But the twisted ringleader grins like a demon, declaring the camera-free blind spot in the alley makes this a horrifyingly perfect setup, leaving Yoon totally defenseless to their sickening fantasies. Right on cue, a sudden pulse of raw malice triggers Sichin's radar, instantly locking onto the disgusting stench of the student council creeping up behind them. A cold fury washes over him. He is absolutely floored that these vermin had the guts. Without missing a beat, Sichin slips his earbuds out and gently places them into Yoon's ears, whispering that he found, urging her to get lost in the rhythm for just a moment. The sudden gesture leaves her stunned, completely unaware, hoping this melody might finally give her a glimpse into his mysterious new mindset. As the heavy bass drowns out the world and her back faces the impending threat, Sichin marches straight into the belly of the beast. The thugs charge like rabid dogs, but our guy instantly swaps to his high-voltage, lightning assassin-class eyes, glowing with deadly intent. Flashbacks of losing his precious sister in a previous timeline flood his mind, a brutal tragedy fixed only by his miraculous resurrection. Pure, unadulterated rage consumes him. These punks actually dared to taint the sacred reunion with his little sister. The first idiot to step up catches a lightning-fast boot to the skull, launching him through the air before his face bounces brutally off the concrete. The remaining goons freeze in absolute terror. But their fate is sealed as Sichin blitzes through their ranks, unloading a barrage of bone-crushing right hooks, dropping bodies to the pavement without a single ounce of mercy. And while the alley turns into an absolute slaughterhouse, Sweet Yun just bops her head. A desperate thug tries to swing back only to have his wrists snapped backward at a horrifying angle. His blood-curdling shriek echoes off the brick wall, but before he can even process the agony of his shattered limb, a colossal fist caves in his jaw. The impact turns him into a human bowling ball, wiping out two of his buddies. Watching his elite squad get completely the terrifying reality hits him. Sichin is an absolute monster compared to the wimp he thought he knew. But there is no turning back now. They crossed a fatal line, and the Reaper is as the apex predator stalks closer. The trembling bully desperately tries to hold his ground, pathetically screaming about his high-ranking status to save his skin. Mid-sentence, a savage haymaker obliterates his nose. The sheer kinetic energy blasts him backward, off his feet, Yet before gravity can drag him down, Sichin teleports right into his crash path, driving a second catastrophic blow directly into his temple, threatening to cave his skull right in. Bloody teeth scatter across the pavement like broken glass. But that is nothing compared to... He slumps over in a pathetic heap, practically folded in half, with his shredded clothes exposing his utterly broken frame. Sichin looms over the whimpering mess, his voice icy cold, as he echoes his earlier ignored warning to back the hell off. Snatching the bully's dropped blade from the dirt, our hero points the steel right at his throat, radiating an absolutely mockingly demanding to know if the bleeding scum was too brain-dead to process a simple verbal warning. Hot tears stream down the shattered bully's face as the horrifying truth finally clicks. Those insane... His cocky attitude just bought him a one-way ticket to the afterlife, and he frantically stammers out a desperate apology to Si-Chen. But Si-Chen violently silences him, his voice dropping to a dead whisper as he promises that one more syllable will be his absolute last. One look into Si-Chen's pitch-black, lifeless gaze sends shivers down Jian's spine, screaming that this is definitely not a bluff. Suffocating bloodlust pours off the kid in heavy waves, leaving Jian trembling as he questions how this absolute... Leaning in uncomfortably close, Si-Chen orders the bruised thug to carve his next commands deeply into his skull. He demands that Jian and his pathetic crew vanish from his family's radar forever, if they even dare to cast a single shadow in his little sister's direction. He vows to slaughter every last one of them in a heartbeat. Message delivered. Si-Chen tosses the punk aside like actual garbage and casually strolls right back to his sister, who is still happily lost in her headphones. The melody she is listening to is so overwhelmingly beautiful that silent tears are literally streaming down her cheeks. Even though they just hung out a few days prior, the haunting lyrics convince her that her big brother is carrying a massive, invisible burden. She spins around, totally ready to scold him, but freezes mid-sentence when she spots Si-Chen extending a sleek gift box right toward her. Resting inside is a brand new Mona holographic drawing stylus, and Si-Yun's jaw hits the floor, because it is the absolute latest model on the market. Snatching the gadget with trembling hands, she gasps that this premium tech costs over 10,000 bucks, instantly interrogating him about where he got that kind of cash. Her eyes stay nervously glued to the sleek pen, suggesting they just refund it since it costs an absolute fortune. What she absolutely does not realize is that her older brother has already sworn a silent blood oath to shield her from the world's cruelty. Meanwhile, back in the filthy alley, Jian and his crippled goons huddle behind a dumpster, weeping for a medic. Later at the apartment, Si-Yun finally tests out the stylus. The premium tool flawlessly materializes glowing, three-dimensional holograms right out of thin air. Seeing her face light up warms Si-Chen's cold heart. And while she geeks out over her new toy, the second he polishes off his meal, his sister brings him right back to reality, nagging him about their impending rent deadline. She sternly warns him that dropping bags of cash on luxury items is completely off the table right now. Grinning, he drops an absolute bombshell. He already covered He smoothly lies right to her face, claiming he partnered up with a buddy on a small business venture and hit a massive payday. But his sister totally refuses to buy that obvious fairy tale, knowing exactly how effortlessly her big brother can spin a web of total nonsense. Still, seeing him actually beam with joy softens her heart, since it feels like an eternity since a genuine smile graced his face. Closing the gap between them, Si-Yun gently wraps her arms around her brother to offer him some warm comfort. She softly murmurs that no matter how terrifying life gets, he must never destroy himself trying to fix it alone. Across town, Ting gets the briefing on Jian's brutal beatdown, and is absolutely... Not even their elite recovery mages can stitch that disastrous, bloody mess back together in under 30 days. Ting coldly admits he never expected Jian to hunt down Si-Chen, only to get mercilessly scrubbed off the pavement. A lackey quickly informs Ting that given his broken state, Jian is definitely going to miss the upcoming graduation trials. Ting scoffs with a wicked grin, bragging that he could not care less, since dropping a completely useless liability actually makes his squad stronger. Suddenly the heavy doors swing open, revealing Ting's highly influential uncle, Gong Xuan. As the university's employment director, the older man strides in, announcing he just pulled some string. The stolen data reveals a shocking truth: someone just officially clocked in at C rank. Gong Xuan nervously warns Ting that this mystery student is now the only person in the entire academy holding a rank higher. The uncle then drops a massive bombshell. Ting's wealthy father personally invited the Alliance's vice chairman to spectate his final grade. With a high-profile VIP sitting in the audience, they absolutely cannot risk letting this top-ranked underdog steal Ting's spotlight. The corrupt uncle offers to rig the system to help, but Ting quickly waves him off, chuckling at the old man's flashing an arrogant smirk. Ting asks if his uncle seriously believed he showed his true power during that pathetic mock exam. Oozing with lethal confidence, Ting promises that when the combat trials officially begin, he will. Deep into the night, Si Chen finally drags his exhausted body back to his room after surviving a grueling 100-kilometer training gauntlet. Sighing heavily, he feels a massive weight lift off his chest now that his crippling financial crisis is handled. With everything perfectly falling into place, he sets his sights on triggering his master plan the second he gets his diploma. But first he has to lock onto his next major target, dominating the graduate. Once he bags that massive prize, he can finally obliterate his suffocating debt to G once and for all. Sichin is dead set on keeping his pact with G. Collapsing onto his bed, Sichin stares intensely at the ceiling. The looming assessment is barely 4 weeks out, and the clock is ticking. He shuts his eyes, determined to grind his heart out. His plan: dive deep into the dream layer and farm. The very second his consciousness slips into the dreamscape, Sichin makes a beeline straight for the looming tower. His recent test results painted a crystal-clear picture. Even his absolute weakest class hit a solid. It completely glitched the system. Sure, Rakshasa sits at a godly S rank, but his mortal body can't handle its raw, unfiltered might just yet. It leaves a burning. Basically, the true power ceilings for his remaining 2 heavy-hitter classes, the Lightning Assassin and the Rakshasa, remain shrouded in mystery. But there's only one way to find out. Gripping the heavy iron key, he forcefully shoves open the massive double doors, leading up to the next floor. He braces himself, visualizing the mystical landscapes hiding inside the magic tower. Total shock hits him like a freight train. Sichin instantly collapses to his knees, utterly crushed by the suffocating gravity. This isn't just a room. The entire floor is forged from a shattered meteorite, crushing everything with a bone-snapping 10 Gs of force. He violently whips his head around, only to see the entrance dissolving into thin air. He's trapped. The only way out is. Under this nightmare pressure, his muscles scream in agonizing protest. He knows he can barely tap into 30% of his normal power. And grits his teeth. He has to adapt to this hellhole, and fast. Suddenly the shadows twist, spitting out a massive, terrifying B-rank monstrosity, the Phantom Lion. Without missing a single beat, Sichin shifts gears instantly, activating his Lightning Assassin class to rip this beast apart. The monster lunges forward with razor-sharp fangs. Sichin slashes his blade to counter, but completely whiffs the air. His limbs feel like solid lead. He pushes off the ground, aiming a lethal strike right at the lion's jugular. But he misses, again. The crushing gravity is relentlessly dragging his body down, completely wrecking his blistering speed and pinpoint accuracy. A cold sweat breaks on Sichin's forehead. He suddenly realizes his glass cannon assassin build is utterly useless in this gravitational nightmare. Meanwhile, the giant cat is prowling around like it's taking a casual stroll in the park. Sichin grits his bleeding teeth, questioning if this insane speed is actually the baseline monster stat, spawning inside the unforgiving depths of the Purgatory Magic Tower. In a blinding flash, razor teeth sink deep into his forearm. The shift is instantaneous, hitting him with a massive realization. Each class carries its own distinct survival kit, and brutal hand-to-hand brawls demand the explosive strength and endless stamina that only a pure warrior build can offer. Fueled by the Rakshasa's demonic vigor, he violently rips his bloody arm free and slams a devastating right hook into the lion. hijacking the crushing gravitational force of the room to multiply his brutal momentum. Sitchin ramps up his kinetic energy by a staggering 60. His muscles scream in agonizing pain, his energy reserves hitting absolute zero. But that single earth-shattering blow was enough to completely obliterate the monster. Gasping for precious air, Sitchin collapses flat on his back. A sweet ping echoes in his head. He just skyrockets, and to top it off, a brand new golden star materializes on his profile. Here is the deal: every single star etched onto his card the second he triggers a class change. His Purgatory Rakshasa form is utterly... Doing the quick math, he deduces that his combat rating after shifting forms absolutely dwarfs his Lightning Assassin build. Still, a cold chill runs down his spine. Taking out a mere B-rank scrub practically drained his soul. It hits him hard. Neither of his two active classes have truly shattered that brutal B-rank ceiling just yet. Right in that exact moment, a disturbing detail catches his eye. The system complete. Worse yet, the heavy portal to the next level remains sealed shut. Panic sets in as the horrifying truth clicks. That lion was... He just burned through his entire mana pool to slaughter a simple grunt. Validating his worst nightmare, the air suddenly tears open, and an entire bloodthirsty pride of phantom lions pours out from the void, practically drooling for a piece of him. Bam! Before he can even twitch, a massive beast pounces, but it's no use. The entire swarm completely buries him, shredding his flesh with razor-sharp claws. In this agonizing moment, the haunting warning from the rock... Once that door creaks open, the only thing waiting on the other side is absolute never-ending agony. While the savage beast viciously rips his flesh apart, Shi-Chen anchors his mind to Rakshasa's echoing command. He has to... The relentless slaughter continues until he violently jolts awake in the real world, gasping desperately for air, as cold sweat soaks his skin. A chilling truth suddenly hits him. The excruciating pain he experiences inside that nightmare realm is 100% identical to reality. He completely understands now. If he wants to forge true power, there are absolutely... This means his brutal, solitary crusade toward absolute dominance is only just getting started. Sometime later, the Academy trainees pile into the massive assembly hall to forge their squads for the ultimate graduation combat trial. And running the entire show from... The students discover that the Academy elites are dropping in to spectate the final combat trials. Suddenly, the drastic rule changes for this year's exams make total sense. In the past, nobody cared about minimum squad sizes or power levels. But now, every single squad is strictly required to have at least 5. And the kicker: at least one member has to be a high-tier E rank or stronger. The crowd assumes this is just to dial up the entertainment. But Juan clearly has a sinister hidden agenda. Right on cue, Juan announces that the official trial guidelines are already loaded onto their smart bracelets. He barks at everyone to sync up and finalize their rosters immediately. The courtyard erupts into a frenzy of tapping screens, but Malong spots a glaring error on his display. The system is officially registering Shi-Chen as a pathetic low tier. A wave of shock ripples through the crowd. Didn't his exam literally just broadcast a solid C rank? The whispers start instantly, with everyone concluding his previous score was just a bogus glitch from a malfunctioning demon. The brutal reality sets in. With graduation on the line, nobody is going to risk their future by teaming up with a fraud. Who wants to carry useless, dead weight, classmates? Loudly mock him, laughing at the idiot who arrogantly blew off Ting's generous offer earlier. Meanwhile, Ting watches with a knowing smirk, fully aware that his uncle pulled the strings behind the scenes. A wicked grin spreads across Juan's face. He is determined to teach his nephew a brutal lesson about the absolute necessity of raw power. By rigging the system, he guarantees that Ting's rivals won't even step foot in the arena. Absolute chaos breaks out as students swarm Ting, desperately flexing their One pathetic guy literally offers to be Ting's obedient lapdog, proving just how frantic these kids are for a free carry. Chung steps up as the unofficial bouncer, aggressively shoving the mob back and shouting that they only have one single vacancy left. 30 minutes later, the dust settles. Rosters are locked in across the yard, but Si Chen and his crew are left completely stranded. Zhuo enters full panic mode, practically hyperventilating because they are stuck at 4 members, one short of the absolute minimum. He clutches his head, terrified that their entire academic career is going down the drain, just because nobody will team up with them. Malong crosses his arms, sensing foul play. There is absolutely no way Si Chen is actually sitting at the bottom of the barrel. Shang Yo chimes in, dropping a heavy theory. Somebody is intentionally sabotaging their specific dorm room. Everyone knows these trials are the ultimate stage to flaunt your skills and secure a high-paying corporate gig. The mechanics are simple. The beast spawn rate inside the demon lair scales directly with your squad size. But bringing a massive army doesn't automatically guarantee an easy high score. Still, even the pathetic rejects who failed to secure a spot with Ting absolutely refuse to join forces with bottom feeders like him. Right now, Si Chen Malong and Xiang Yo are basically viewed as the absolute lowest bottom-tier E ranks in the entire academy. Out of nowhere, a rival squad approaches Zhou, offering him a lifeline since they are exactly one body short. They coldly remind him that sticking with his loser friends means kissing his graduation dreams goodbye. Watching this unfold, Si Chen braces for the inevitable. The world is turning its back on them. And without a full roster, their disqualification is practically set in stone. But in a shocking twist, Zhuo shoots the recruiters down. He firmly states that his crew made a blood oath to ride this out together. There is absolutely no way in hell he is leaving his brothers behind. Even Si Chen's eyes widen at the intense loyalty. Furious at the rejection, the rival students flip Zhuo the bird, aggressively telling him to go because he is absolutely going to regret it. In no time, the courtyard empties out, leaving Malong and his squad of underdogs completely isolated. They are literally just one signature short, yet nobody in the entire school will touch them with a 10-foot pole. Si Chen narrows his eyes, locking gazes with Wan across the yard. His sharp senses immediately detect the pressure of a genuine C-rank warrior. Then the pieces click together. Wan shares the exact same surname as Ting, and there are no coincidences in this academy. A dark thought crosses Si Chen's mind. Is this corrupt instructor actually the ugly truth of society hits him right in the face? The strong get to manipulate the rules however they please, but honestly Si Chen couldn't care less. Whatever traps they set, he is absolutely ready to tear through this graduation trial. Si Chen's patience finally snaps. He violently shifts into his lightning assassin form, choosing a brutal path that most people would be completely terrified to walk. Crackling blue energy surges across his skin, instantly suffocating the room with tension. The crowd holds their breath. You see, standard exams are not the only way to flex your power around here. Awakener academies harbor a hidden loophole, an ancient, blood-pumping tradition, designed to push students to their absolute. It is a raw, public one-on-one duel to the bitter end right in front of a live audience. Most cowards back down, but Si Chen is dead set on throwing the gauntlet. He knows damn well Ting will not dare decline. The lethal words are practically spilling from his mouth when the doors swing open. Ling Yu strolls in casually, asking if his squad has an empty slot. She wants in. Flashing a confident smirk, she declares her intent to crash the Academy's graduation trial this year. Then she drops a massive bombshell. She already hit D rank way back in middle school. I promise I won't drag you down. She winks. The entire classroom immediately erupts into absolute chaos because Ling Yu is not just some face in the crowd. Zhuan practically pops a blood vessel, screaming at her to explain this insane stunt. As a visiting transfer from a rival academy, the local kids are completely blindsided by her hijacking their turf. Why would an outsider willingly risk her neck in their notoriously brutal final exam? She constantly radiates this chilling, enigmatic vibe. But one thing is crystal clear. The girl is a straight-up prodigy. Pacing furiously, Zhuan tries to shut her down. He harshly reminds her of her temporary status, barking that she is technically barred from stepping foot into their arena. He aggressively points out her lack of official paperwork. 0 tests, 0 verified combat reports since she arrived on campus. Breaking the rules is not an option, Zhuan sneers, practically slamming the rulebook in her face. Whoosh. The air warps, and Principal Long materializes out of thin air, sending a massive shockwave of disbelief through the crowd. His booming voice echoes as he unexpectedly backs up Xuan's argument. He locks eyes with Ling Yu, issuing a stern reminder. Your stay here is temporary, kid. You don't get to play in this bloodbath. Sai Chen's jaw practically hits the floor. He always pegged the headmaster as a hardcore brawler, but spatial manipulation, a teleporting tank that changes. Long crosses his arms, warning the transfer student that throwing a ringer into the mix shatters the fragile balance of the trial. The crucible loses its entire purpose if the playing field is not purely forged by genuine earned power. Intimidated Ling Yu meekly nods along. Meanwhile, Si Chen secretly triggers his system to scan their power. Error. Even his omnipotent demon heart draws a blank, projecting massive, glitching question marks hovering over their heads. Feeling validated, Xuan eagerly jumps back into the spotlight. He proudly boasts that the Academy's elite reputation is built entirely on ironclad discipline. But Long cuts him off, his tone shifting. He declares the Academy's true mission, forging God-tier combatants. They provide the ultimate battlefield for raw talent, ensuring humanity never runs out of legendary protectors. This final trial is not just some test. It is a decades-old rite of passage, a massive turning point that dictates whether a rookie lives in glory or fades into obscurity. The principal suddenly glares at Xuan, his voice dripping with venom. How do we justify robbing a kid of their defining moment just to hide behind some cowardly bureaucratic red tape? The verbal smackdown hits Xuan like a freight train. He instantly realizes the boss is taking a direct shot at him. Panic sets in. Long usually plays the ghost, completely ignoring the day-to-day drama of the campus. Gears grind in Xuan's head. Is this terrifying man stepping out of the shadows solely to protect Si Chen, knowing he is outmatched? Xuan swallows his pride and quickly retreats. Picking a fight with a teleporting powerhouse is pure suicide. He grinds his teeth, realizing he cannot shield Ting from the storm anymore. His hands are still. The elite fighters are already grouped up. Si Chen is stuck, scraping the bottom of the barrel for teammates. Because of that glaring disadvantage, Xuan smirks internally, fully betting on Ting to crush. Admitting defeat, Xuan respectfully bows to the principal, smoothly conceding that the employment offices, this glaring oversight totally iced out a handful of students, leaving them completely stranded in the dust. Realizing the mess-up, Juan quickly flips the script. He announces that squads rolling with under 5 members, or those missing a heavyweight E-rank fighter, are now official. He declares that the gates to the graduation combat assessment are swinging wide open for absolutely everybody. Boom. Si Chen instantly locks in his squad, and Zuo pumps his fist in sheer hype, stoked that they've. Ma Long nudges Si Chen to take the lead, hyping him up to snatch that captain badge. Meanwhile, Long raises an eyebrow at Ling Yu, flat out stunned by her sudden, intense fascination with Si Chen. The contrast is insane. In one corner stands the Academy's apex predator squad, spearheaded by the absolute strongest guy on campus. And in the opposite corner, Si Chen, dragging along his 3 deadweight teammates. Long smirks, dying to see which monster den this ragtag group dares to raid, and exactly how many pathetic points they will manage to scrape together. Once the dust finally settles and the rosters are completely locked in, the grizzled examiner barks at the rookies to select their target battlegrounds. Instantly, a ping lights up his screen. Someone already locked in their choice, with zero hesitation, leaving the old man blinking in pure disbelief. Jaws absolutely hit the floor across the room when the giant screen reveals the culprit. It is Si Chen, but that is nothing compared to the brain-melting reality of exactly what this guy just picked. His own crew completely panics. Ma Long and the others scream right in his face, demanding to know if he has lost his absolute mind. Si Chen, ice cold, not a single flinch. You see, this final trial is the very first time these rookies dive headfirst into a legitimate, bloodthirsty monster hive. It is a straightforward slaughter for points system. Nailing the completion rate nets a solid 10 points, but leave a beast breathing. And that is a brutal 1-point penalty for every single. Executing the dungeon boss. That drops a massive 20-point jackpot. But fail that mission, and you walk away with absolutely zero. Speed matters too. Blitz the entire cave in under 1 hour, and you snatch another crisp 20 points. Drag your feet past that hour mark, and the system bleeds out 1 point every. Here is the real catch. Different Devil Cave tiers completely crank up the slaughter difficulty, but they also skyrocket those score multipliers. An F rank hole offers a basic 1.5 boost, while an E rank meat grinder literally doubles your entire haul. Play it safe in an F rank zone, and your squad hard caps at a measly 75 points. Risk the E rank nightmare though, and you can rocket straight to that flawless 100-point ceiling. The stakes are legendary. The top scoring squad secures a golden ticket draft directly into the Elite Empire Guild. And the ultimate MVP, they get fast-tracked to an executive chair, plus a fat 1 million bonus. The Untouchable Academy record sits at 90 points. It was forged years ago by a sheer prodigy of the guy who now commands the entire Empire Regiment. Bottom line, conquering an E-rank hellhole is pure suicide, unless your squad is packing at least 3 heavy-hitting D-rank awakeners. But this year the hype is absolutely real. Everyone is betting their money on Ting to finally shatter that legendary high score. Ting himself is still weighing his options when the ultimate bombshell drops. Si Chen actually bypassed all logic and locked in a terrifying D-rank zone. There is just one massive roadblock. His teammates still have to hit the confirm button before this total death sentence is finalized. And right now his crew is having a full-blown sweaty meltdown staring at that screen. They fiercely grill Si Chen, completely convinced his brain is fried. There is absolutely no. Zhou literally tears at his hair in pure frustration, cursing his terrible luck for getting shackled to an absolute lunatic. Zhou desperately wonders if it is not too late to mash the abort button, while Ma Long gets right up in the grill of Si Chen, basically begging to know if he grasps the fact that he just selected a D-rank slaughterhouse. Si Chen does not even blink. He calmly promises that he knows exactly what he did, and he has calculated 100 times over. Plot twist. Ting stubbornly matches the exact same D-rank difficulty, completely refusing to let some underdog outshine him. Ting and his elite squad instantly smash the confirm button without a second thought, while the miserable colleagues of Si Chen continue spiraling. The spectators in the stands are practically salivating. They absolutely know this year is going to deliver a cinematic, brutal blood. Still, the entire crowd instantly writes Si Chen off as a delusional loser who is totally oblivious to his own pathetic limits. He basically leaps straight into a suicidal nightmare, way above it. The final verdict from the crowd. Si Chen and his miserable crew must have already accepted their grim fate at the dead bottom of the scoreboard. That's exactly why they're just looking out for number 1. One of Ting's guys even snickered, pointing out that since they're diving into a D-rank demon lair, there was zero chance Si Chen's squad would actually step up to the plate. Honestly, the whole crowd is dead certain this fresh lineup will crash and burn before it even takes off. It's frankly kind of pathetic to watch. But taking in the chaos, Ma Long locks eyes with Si Chen. He doesn't see fear. He sees absolute, unbreakable resolve burning in his friend's gaze. A heavy, suffocating pressure radiates off Si Chen's frame, leaving Ma Long completely stunned. Since when did he become this intense? Weighing the insane odds, Ma Long finally makes his call. He steps up, locking in his spot on the roster, and drops the truth on Si Chen. "We've survived 4 years of pure grind together," he declares. "If you're riding this into hell, I'm right there riding shotgun." Zhuo connects the dots next. They're already scraping the dead bottom of the leaderboards, so picking a suicidal difficulty barely changes their fate. He figures why not just plunge headfirst into a D-rank slaughterhouse? Might as well taste real danger. Frustrated, Zhou throws a massive fit, screaming that these jerks actually dared to leave him in the dust, especially since he is, without a doubt, the undisputed king of their garbage dorm. Driven by pure ego, he smashes the accept button, completely blinding himself to the deadly stakes. And just like that, the entire squad locks in their destiny. Si Chen turns to his boys, a guilty look flashing across his face. He owns up to dragging them into a D-rank nightmare, purely because he's gunning for the MVP crown. But he quickly flips the script, hyping them up. If they're doing this, they might as well shatter every historical record on the books. It's the least they can achieve since he essentially hijacked their graduation plans. Out of nowhere, Ting shadows up right behind them. With the whole crowd watching, he loudly vows to snatch that MVP trophy straight out of Si Chen's hands. Smirking, Ting lays down the law. This academy only has room for one apex predator, and that throne belongs to him. Watching the clash from afar, even Ling Yu's jaw drops. She catches herself admitting that in all her days she has never seen such raw, unhinged ambition plastered across. Still, a wicked smile creeps onto her lips. The Cold War is finally over. These two titans are openly out for blood. Beside her, Long chuckles, muttering about the luxury of youth. When you're that young, the terrifying grip of the unknown simply doesn't exist. Ling Yu shoots back, pointing out that picking a D-rank battleground crosses the line from confident right into suicidal territory. Long nods in agreement. He notes that even with Si Chen packing C-rank power, trying to carry a deadweight squad through a D-rank slaughterfest is basically a pipe dream. Sure, clearing it blasts your score with a ×3 multiplier, but the sheer brutality is light years beyond your basic E-rank sandbox. She shakes her head. Factoring in his squad's pitiful power levels, Si Chen just made a massive tactical blunder. Long checks the calendar. They've only got a measly 2 weeks until the final exam drops. That is nowhere near enough time to pull off some miracle power-up and bridge that massive gap. All he can do is pray these kids don't completely embarrass themselves when the clock runs out. Cut to a few days later, Si Chen is brutally drilling his roommates, dragging them out for agony. Lacking zero cardio, the boys are instantly gasping for air, whining and groaning with every single step. Sweating bullets, Malong barks out that the rest of their class is chilling indoors, safely grinding out their elemental magic and running high-tech virtual beast simulations. Meanwhile, he cannot fathom why Si Chen is torturing them with old-school boot camp routines every damn morning. The rest of the crew violently agrees. They wheeze out that this is a monster hunt, not the freaking Olympics. This whole sweat fest feels completely, utterly. Si Chen abruptly stops shutting down their complaints with cold, hard logic. He drops a reality bomb at their pathetic current level. Spamming magic spells and playing is a massive waste of time. It's all just empty theory. Looking his exhausted crew in the eyes, Si Chen breaks down the grim truth of survival. When you step into a pitch-black lair, textbook tactics and fancy combo chains won't save your life. The only thing that keeps you breathing is raw, unadulterated instinct. He hammers home that surviving the abyss demands relentless stamina, split and lightning-fast reflexes. That's exactly why they are running until they puke. They are quite literally forging muscle memory. Taking a breath, he points out that the Academy's safe little hologram fights are fundamentally flawed. If you want to actually get strong, you have to bathe in the blood of a real physical demon lair. But let's face it, nobodies like them don't get VIP access to live hunting grounds. He harshly reminds them that the Silver Spoon elites have monopolized all the best resources since day one. Trust fund kids like Ting are fighting a rigged game, and they will crush the underdogs into dust to keep that power gap miles. They'll pull every dirty trick in the book just to cement their reign at the apex of. From the second they draw their first breath, these privileged heirs clutch power and resources that ordinary folks couldn't scrape together in 100 lifetimes. Cut to Ting, who is literally proving this point by tearing through a terrifying monster dungeon alongside his elite squad. Panic drips from Zou's voice as he desperately demands how nobody. Staring him down, Sichin lays out a bold strategy. They need to smash the high score and force their way into the legendary Empire Guild. They have to sprint past the finish line long before those Silver Spoon kids even realize what hit them. The brutal truth drops. This upcoming graduation trial acts as the ultimate equalizer. The sole window for With fire in his eyes, Sichin confesses this isn't just a team goal. It's his personal golden ticket to leapfrog the competition. He swears to his crew, and that reality is absolute victory in the final trial. Fueled by his fierce pep talk, the squad plunges headfirst into a brutal, day in and day out, they shred their muscles and push their bodies to the absolute breaking point. Meanwhile, Ting is burning daylight, slaughtering beasts in high-level training dungeons, soaking up pure combat experience. But Sitchin's grind is downright terrifying. After crushing his daytime physical limits, he dives straight into the nightmarish dream realm to butcher monsters until dawn. Clock ticking down to 24 hours, this relentless bloodbath skyrockets him all the way to level 16. The fateful dawn finally breaks, and an electric tension floods the colossal arena. As the hopeful challengers march in, hovering above each squad is a sleek mechanical drone, programmed to track their every move. Sitchin's crew stands shoulder to shoulder, eyes locked and weapons gripped tight, radiating the exact same deadly focus as their leader. A robotic voice echoes from the hovering machines, barking strict orders for everyone to lock down their tracking bands and double-check their combat gear. Far away from the blood and sweat, an entirely different kind of tension brews at the Principal Long bows respectfully to greet Gong Lin Ting's terrifyingly powerful father, and one of the original architects behind the almighty Empire Guild. Whispers erupt through the student crowds, their jaws hitting the floor, as they spot the legendary heavyweight casually strolling their campus grounds. But the murmurs suddenly morph into pure shock when a shadowy silhouette shifts in the back seat of the luxury convoy, trailing right behind. The suspense skyrockets as both Long and the mighty Lin scramble over like humble servants opening the door. A sharp-dressed gentleman steps onto the pavement, revealing himself as none other than Carl Cavendish, the feared second-in-command of the entire World Guild Alliance. Absolute chaos sweeps through the bleachers as the terrified teenagers lose their collective minds. Having a titan of his caliber grace their this monumental clash of elites is a once-in-a-century spectacle that most ordinary fighters would never witness before heading to their graves. The massive security sweeps and the totally locked-down VIP zones suddenly make crystal-clear sense to the awestruck cadets. The Alliance stands undisputed as the absolute apex predator of the modern world, making their sudden interest in this local academy an earth-shattering honor. Smiling politely, Long gestures toward the grand entrance, ushering Carl inside. Just as the massive live-stream displays flick, breaking down the statistics, Juan reports that exactly 184 fierce combatants are throwing down in this final graduation brawl, scattered across 28 highly trained squads. Out of those 28 factions, 23 played it safe by locking in the F-rank Abyss. 3 daring crews pushed for the E-rank Caverns, and 2 utterly insane groups plunged straight into the suicidal D-rank Nightmares. Sigrid, the Alliance's razor-sharp secretary, arches an eyebrow, genuinely shocked that any rookies possess the sheer audacity to challenge a D-rank death. She points out that those mid-level hellholes. With a chilling glare, she questions the principal, demanding to know if he actually warned these naive kids about the bloody horrors lurking down there. Sweating slightly, Juan aggressively defends his faculty, swearing they hammered the grim survival. He clarifies that because these greenhorns are desperately starving for real-world bloodshed, almost all of them sit hopelessly stuck at the pathetic in plain English. Most of them would practically wet themselves trying to fend off bottom-feeder grunts in a basic F-rank dungeon. But the moment they cross paths with an apex predator, a dungeon boss, they're practically guaranteed a one-way ticket to the morgue. Juan makes it terrifyingly clear. So these rookies will have to burn through every ounce of their mana and shatter their absolute limits just to scratch a lowly F-rank warlord. But stepping foot into the shadowy depths of an E-rank battleground completely shatters the rules of survival. He drops a bombshell. Every single roaming beast in that elevated cavern packs the exact same devastating punch as an F-rank dungeon boss. And perfectly syncing with his grim warning, the screen flashes to the arrogant E-rank challengers, who are currently losing their minds in pure, unadulterated panic. The brutal reality of the dungeon has just slammed into them like a freight train, and they realize they've marched straight into a Juan points out that surviving an E-rank devil cave is practically a suicide mission for your average student. Naturally, Sigrid questions what kind of safety net is in place when things inevitably go south. Juan reassures her that these kids are the Academy's greatest asset. To keep them breathing, elite guards from the Empire Guild Regiment stand guard right outside every dungeon entrance, watching their every move like hawks. He adds, the second a lethal threat pops up on the radar, the cavalry will storm in to save them. On top of that, every examinee wears a high-tech wristband packed with an emergency warp feature. If a student throws in the towel one tap, instantly beams them out of the monster den and back to safety. Hearing this safety briefing leaves Sigrid stunned. She cannot fathom why any squad would willingly plunge into the nightmare difficulty zone. Yet she cannot help but respect the sheer raw talent boiling inside this academy. A thrill of anticipation washes over Sigrid as she waits for the bloodbath to begin. Deep down, Juan is quietly betting on exactly how many minutes Si Chen and his ragtag crew will survive. Glaring intently at the glowing monitor, he smugly predicts the boys will come crying out of the cavern in record time. Cut to the actual battlefield. Si Chen and his squad drop right into the cloud forest, a brutal, bone-chilling frozen wasteland. The hairs on their necks stand up as dozens of bizarre glowing eyes peer down from the canopy. These creepy lurkers are ghost bat monkeys, vicious D-rank predators, hungry for fresh meat. Si Chen barks out a warning. These beasts hunt in massive swarms, and their aerial dive-bombing speed is utterly terrifying. He orders his crew to keep their heads on a swivel, bracing for a sudden strike from the skies. A split second after they turn around, the screeching horde plummets toward them. Thankfully, Si Chen senses the killing intent instantly. "Incoming!" he roars, giving his squad a split-second head start. Against all odds, the three rookies twist and roll out of the death zone, leaving even themselves wide-eyed in disbelief. Hell Camp actually worked. But before they can celebrate, they glance up to see Si Chen casually slaughtering three beasts. He butchers them like absolute trash. Flicking the blood off his blade, Si Chen commands the boys to focus entirely on staying alive. Right now, stepping into this bloodbath would be pure suicide for them. "I'll handle the swarm," he declares. But the jungle offers no breaks, and another vicious wave crashes down. Muscle memory takes over. The trio instinctively evades the razor-sharp claws. Suddenly it clicks for Zuo. This is exactly why Si Chen tortured them with those building explosive speed wasn't about turning them into heavy hitters. Si Chen never expected them to carry the team's damage output. He just wanted to make sure they wouldn't die on him. A bitter pill of reality swallows Zuo. He used to be the untouchable dorm king, yet here he is, getting totally hard-carried to the finish line by the guy he used to. Utterly spellbound, Zuo watches the massacre unfold. Si Chen is a blender of blades dicing up the beasts effortlessly. It does not matter if a dozen or 100 dive-bomb him. Every single monster gets violently skewered out of the air. Back in the dorms, Zuo thought Ma Long was heavily exaggerating about this insane glow-up. But witnessing this absolute bloodbath firsthand, he realizes Ma Long was actually understating the truth. Moving with such terrifying precision and ruthless power, Si Chen looks absolutely nothing like a rookie student. He moves like a grizzled, blood-soaked veteran. Zuo's mind races, desperately trying to pinpoint the exact moment his classmate transformed into this unstoppable god of war. Only one painful truth remains. Zuo has been completely left in the dust. His self-pity is violently interrupted. Another demonic primate plummets straight for their skulls, forcing you to scream a desperate. Something snaps inside Zuo. Fueled by pure, unadulterated frustration, grappling the thrashing monster, he roars at his teammates. They are done hiding behind Si Chen's shadow. He barks that this is not a solo quest for one guy. This is their graduation exam, and it is time they earned it. That fiery battle cry sparks a fire in the squad. Yu taps into his core, erupting with wild magic, as thick binding vines shoot out to ensnare the creature. But the D-rank brute simply flexes its muscles, shattering the vines like cheap string. A shockwave of pure force blasts outward, slamming. Yu stares at his shattered vines, completely paralyzed by the sheer physical strength of their enemy. Just as panic threatens to take over, Ma Long steps up, blasting the beast with a biting frost wave. With the monkey temporarily frozen, he yells for a coordinated capitalizing on the slowed movement, Yu fires off a savage combo skill, dragging the beast to the ground in an inescapable botanical lock. The stage is perfectly set for the grand finale. Stepping up to the plate, Zuo unleashes a scorching barrage of fireballs straight into the monster's chest, sparking a... But the beast refuses to go down. Zhuo unleashes a relentless barrage of flaming spheres, bombarding the creature with everything he's got. Yu Sun grits his teeth, warning the crew that his magical grip is slipping fast. The beast is just too strong. Ma Long gasps for air, completely tapped out. Realizing it's now or never, Zhuo channels every last ounce of his remaining energy for one final desperate strike. Squeezing his core dry, Zhuo conjures a colossal blazing inferno above his head, and hurls the scorching meteor straight down onto the screeching primate. The impact triggers a deafening blast. A blinding shockwave rips through the cavern, blasting the entire squad violently backward into the dirt. As the thick smoke finally dissipates, the robotic proctor chimes in, officially confirming their victory over the terrifying ghost bat monkey. The trio desperately wants to cheer, but their legs completely give out beneath them. They are utterly drained. Collapsing into the freezing snow, Zhuo tilts his head back with a cocky grin, bragging to Si Chen that taking down the beast was an absolute walk in the... But his smug smile instantly vanishes. Right above him stands Shi Chen, completely soaked head to toe in crimson. Wiping the grime from his face, Si Chen shoots Zhou a warm smile, praising the exhausted mage. The mechanical drone buzzes overhead again, announcing that the squad has successfully exterminated every single mutant ape roaming the outer cavern. Back in the observation room, Wan's jaw practically hits the floor. This impossible outcome completely shatters him. He stares at the monitors in sheer disbelief. How on earth did a bunch of greenhorn rookies manage to butcher a terrifying D-class threat? That monster should have absolutely slaughtered them. Suddenly, Carl breaks the silence. He genuinely praises Shi Chen's flawless combat efficiency, muttering that the kid's fighting style oddly reminds him of a very familiar face from the past. Leaning back in his chair, Carl confidently declares that he is definitely... Lin's blood immediately boils at the high praise. Sensing that Si Chen is completely stealing the spotlight, Sean decides to interject. He quickly shifts the narrative, urging the entire panel to turn their attention toward Ting's squad, who also dared to brave a D-class dungeon. Pointing at another monitor, he boasts that Ting's elite crew has already carved their way deep into the heart of the cavern. Watching the footage, Sigrid nods in approval. She notes their flawless synergy, comparing their perfectly timed rotations to a seasoned professional raid guild. Carl observes their formations for a moment before chiming in, admitting that this year's crop of graduates is actually packing some serious talent. Juan smirks, inwardly thrilled that the judges are swallowing his bait. Little do they know he has a much darker scheme brewing behind the scenes. Cut to Ting's treacherous dungeon. The squad finds themselves surrounded by a horde of toxic, miasma-spewing mush, but the crew doesn't even break a sweat executing a perfectly synchronized assault to mow down. The backline cleric effortlessly patches up minor scratches, while their heavy tank flawlessly draws the horde's aggression right into the kill zone. This leaves Ting with the easiest job in the world. He just casually strolls up to the stun-locked beasts and brutally cleaves them right down the middle. They are absolutely steamrolling through the dungeon without a single hitch. But there's a dirty little secret behind. The lackeys practically worship Ting right now, thanking their lucky stars they joined his crew, especially since Ting's corrupt uncle secretly rigged this entire exam. It's the ultimate proof that the brutal world of awakening, coasting on this unfair advantage, the arrogant squad is utterly convinced the first-place trophy is already theirs. After sweeping the trash mobs into the dirt, Ting confidently signals his posse to push forward. It's time to butcher the dungeon boss. Meanwhile, Shi Chen's battered squad finally breaches the deepest chamber of the demon pit. Looming in the frigid shadows is a terrifying D-class ice ghost ape. The hulking monstrosity is so massive that Zhuo nervously gulps, whispering that a single backhand from that thing would turn him into red mist. The colossal primate is happily gorging itself on bat monkey corpses until it senses the intruders locking its piercing eyes right onto the trembling. Tossing its bloody snack aside, the silverback erupts into a furious sprint, barreling toward them like a runaway freight train. Panic instantly takes over. The three teammates scatter for their lives, but Si Chen He doesn't even flinch. Launching himself off the ground, Shi Chen delivers a bone-shattering roundhouse kick straight to the beast's jaw. As the massive ape goes flying backward, Shi Chen blitzes forward. Ma Long and the others are completely paralyzed with shock. Their jaws scrape the ground as they realize Shi Chen just one-shotted a boss level. But landing gracefully, Shi Chen just clicks his tongue in sheer disappointment. Glancing at his system interface, the measly chunk of experience points he gained is an absolute joke. For a creature claim, even worse, the item drops are absolute garbage. He's quietly cursing his terrible luck when Zhou suddenly shrieks at the top of his lungs. Mana Stone. Whipping his head around, Shi Chen watches his greedy squad sprint toward a massive, hollowed-out tree trunk, completely overflowing with a mother lode of glowing blue crystals. These gems are absolutely massive. The exhausted trio instantly forgets their fatigue, their eyes turning into literal. Zhuo reaches out to snatch the glowing stones. But before Shi Chen can scream a warning, it's too late. The damage is done. The second his fingers brush the rock, a colossal glacial shockwave detonates instantly, flash freezing the entire cavern. Even the hovering assistant drone gets caught in the blast, its lenses frosting over as the live broadcast abruptly cuts to black. Back in the monitoring room, a smug grin creeps across Wan's face. This was his master plan all along, and he's absolutely thrilled the team walked right into his snare. He slowly strokes his mustache, gloating over the fact that Shi Chen's graduation assessment is finally. Carl frantically points out that the students are in mortal danger, prompting Wan to eagerly authorize an immediate emergency extraction. But Director Long sharply interrupts. He orders Wan to stand down and give the rookies just a little more time to prove themselves. Lin and Wan are completely stunned. Long calmly explains that the biometric wristbands are actively tracking the squad's vitals. Right now their life signs are perfectly stable. Plus not a single one of them has hit the panic button to tap out. Therefore the choice to retreat belongs entirely to the students, not the proctors. Meanwhile, deep inside the frozen abyss, the entire squad is trapped in solid blocks of ice. Thanks to his innate cloud-type abilities, he possesses a natural resistance to the biting frost. If it weren't for that, the whole team would be dead. Suddenly, a bone-chilling, sinister cackle echoes from the shadows above. Ma Long snaps his head up. Looming over him is a terrifying, nightmarish figure, the true, undisputed overlord of this demonic cavern. Panic grips him as he recognizes the beast from his textbooks. It's a lethal cloud mage, boasting devastating crowd control and offensive magic. This horrific creature has absolute mastery over ice and snow. Worse yet, it's notorious for sadistically torturing its prey before finally going for the kill. He is staring dead in the eyes of the Frostbone Skeleton King. It clicks in his head. The frozen explosive was a deliberate bait set by the king. He instantly realizes one grim truth. There is zero chance he can survive a one-on-one fight against this. Scrambling to his feet, he sprints frantically toward Shi Chen's frozen body. Shi Chen is their only shred of hope against a C-rank nightmare. He's just inches away when the Skeleton King violently hurls a jagged ice spear piercing straight through Ma Long's heel. He collapses to the freezing floor, screaming in agony. While he writhes in a pool of his own blood, the king merely chuckles. His smart wristband blares a critical injury alert. The system practically begs him to forfeit the exam. But Ma Long furiously rejects the prompt. Gritting his teeth, he begins the painstaking process of thawing his captain. He channels every ounce of magic into his purification spell. He knows deep down, if he can just wake Shi Chen, they might actually survive this. But the cruel king isn't done playing. Another savage ice javelin impales Ma Long right in the arm, shattering his concentration. He slams back onto the icy ground, instantly cutting off the vital purification magic. As tears of pure agony stream down his face, the monstrous entity above just roars with mocking. The king raises a skeletal hand, conjuring a massive barrage of deadly icicles to finish the execution. Meanwhile, the wristband is going absolutely crazy. A robotic voice warns him of severe blood loss, strongly advising an immediate withdrawal from the trial. Yet Ma Long swats the warning away. Flashbacks of his painful past flood his mind every single time he suffered just because he was too weak to fight back. For the first time in his life, he has the power to protect someone, and he'll be damned if he throws it away. He remembers always being the outcast, the one left in the dirt, constantly mocked, brutally bullied, and treated like absolute garbage. He looks at his frozen team. They risked literally everything to make it this far. This is their one shot to rewrite their miserable destinies. After enduring all that hell, quitting is no longer in Ma Long's vocabulary. Bleeding and broken, he forces the purification spell back on, right as the lethal barrage of ice spikes rockets toward his skull. Inside the frozen prison, Si Chen hasn't been sleeping. He's been fiercely battling to shatter the ice from within. Ma Long pours his very soul into the magic. Just a millisecond before the spikes turn him into a pincushion, the ice explodes. Si Chen bursts free in a blur of lightning. He snatches the injured boy out of the kill zone in the nick of time, leaving the Frost King utterly dumbfounded. Sliding to a safe distance, Si Chen drops him gently, gasping for air. Ma Long is stunned that his captain managed to shatter the... But Si Chen gives him a reassuring look, praising the kid for his massive assist. Eyeing the bloody gashes, he quickly asks if the injuries are fatal. Shaking his head, Ma Long insists it's just a scratch. He's already managed to clot the bleeding. Staring back at the monster, he warns Si Chen that one more deep freeze will spell game. Suddenly, a massive shadow falls over them. Si Chen looks up to see the Skeleton King, generating a gargantuan, swirling sphere of absolute zero, and pure terror washes over Ma Long's face. He shrieks in sheer panic, screaming about how a creature could possibly summon an attack of that catastrophic size. How in the world are they supposed to outrun a nuke? Showing zero mercy, the Frost King hurls the apocalyptic ice bomb straight down at them. The devastating strike triggers a deafening shockwave. Watching the blast zone, the beast smirks, convinced its prey has been wiped out. But as the freezing mist fades away, the boys stand completely untouched. Si Chen actually triggered his infernal Death King persona, another cloud class type perfectly neutralizing the Frost. Ma Long and the monster both freeze in sheer disbelief at Si Chen's dramatic transformation. It comes entirely out of left field. Jaw-dropping, Ma Long demands to know how a designated lightning assassin pulled off such a trick. Then it hits him like a ton of bricks. Si Chen might actually be an ultra-rare dual-class awakener. Suddenly, Si Chen shifts his form again, this time stepping into his Rakshasa class. He throws Ma Long a quick apology, admitting that his poor judgment earlier almost got the trio killed. The instant he embraces the Rakshas power, he promises his buddy that this battle is already finished. Watching this unfold, Ma Long practically loses his sanity, fully grasping the terrifying weight of what he is witnessing. Normally, fighters only ever unlock one specific path, but in wildly exceptional scenarios carrying a 1 in 10 million probability, a warrior can manifest two separate paths, branding them as a legendary dual-class awakener. Across the entire globe, only 10 of these anomalies even exist. The moment a prodigy like this pops up on the radar, elite raid guilds will tear each other apart just to recruit them. But Si Chen is not playing by those rules. He does not just hold 1 or 2 abilities. Ma Long has watched him cycle through 3 distinct powers now, and every single one radiates an absurd level of raw strength. Meanwhile, Si Chen pushes his new stats to their absolute limits, dead set on obliterating the icy ruler with a single blow. Feeling the surge of peak energy, he rockets toward his icy target, his blade overflowing with a blinding, suffocating aura. Ma Long watches in awe, realizing the monster's terrifying presence from earlier is absolute garbage compared to the monstrous pressure Si Chen is unleashing right now. Right before the steel connects, Si Chen triggers a devastating technique. The triple gravity strike. The attack carries enough savage force to cleave the behemoth clean in half. It shreds the creature's core, leaving nothing but shattered bones crashing onto the frosty floor. Slaying the dungeon boss instantly rewards Si Chen with 5,000 achievement points, alongside a sweet level-up notification. He even snags an ice-bone spike from the loot drop. Ma Long cheers him on, praising how unbelievably badass it was to execute a C-rank boss monster with a single, flawless swing. Si Chen quickly brings him back to reality, pointing out that Yu and Zuo are still trapped in solid blocks of ice. He asks if Ma Long has enough juice left in the tank. Panicking, Ma Long sprints over, totally guilty of forgetting their squad mates were even there. With his buddy distracted, a system prompt offers Sitchin the chance to devour his fallen enemy. He accepts without hesitation, grinning as he secures a brand new Cloud Mage class. Remarkably, this marks his very first time absorbing an ability completely outside the dream realm. Glancing around, Sitchin spots the broadcast drone, permanently frozen by the boss's earlier shockwave. His cheat-like powers remain completely. With plenty of time left on the clock, he is confident their squad can easily rack up a top-tier score. Suddenly, a notification chimes in, revealing he just earned a star for his Lightning Assassin class, leaving him totally stunned. Meanwhile, on the flip side of the dungeon, Ting's crew finally pushes their way to the boss room, squaring off against a deadly Flora Mage. Unfortunately, this botanical nightmare is way tougher than they bargained for. Despite doing their absolute best to pin the monster down, the young hunters are rapidly running on fumes. Their sniper unloads every arrow in his quiver trying to pierce its thick defenses, but his attacks just bounce right off. Massive whip-like vines thrash the team around like rag dolls, forcing a painful scream from one of the boys. He cries out in agony, realizing they have desperation sets in as their options dry up. Someone shouts that their only shot at surviving this mess is banking entirely on Ting. Behind the front lines, Ting is actually absorbing a massive mana boost from their two sorcerers, which explains why the others have been acting as meat shields. Hitting peak capacity, Ting blasts forward like a cannonball, carving a crater into the dirt where he just stood. His velocity is absolutely insane, closing the gap before the Flora Mage even registers his presence. Ting drives his blazing broadsword deep into the creature's chest, incinerating it from the inside out. Channeling his raw energy, he cranks up the heat until his weapon erupts into an inferno, reducing the monstrous Flora Mage to absolute ash. His squad erupts into wild cheers, hyping up his insane raw power and cementing exactly why he calls the shots as their guildmaster. With the terrifying Flora Mage annihilated, an official system prompt congratulates the crew on conquering the grueling D-rank Demon Cave. The final clock reads exactly 35 minutes. Chung absolutely loses his mind, screaming that their god-tier record of blitzing a D-rank dungeon in barely half an hour. The rest of his teammates are practically bouncing off the walls, knowing they just secured a flawless 150 points. It is the absolute perfect score, officially cementing a brand new legendary school record. Even the usually stoic Ting cracks a smug grin, and the entire squad bolts toward the exit to gloat over the leaderboards. The second they step into the sunlight, they start running their mouths, bragging that normal students would need over an hour just to survive a measly F-rank cave. Chung arrogantly declares that anyone else clocking out this early must have rage quit because they were total garbage. Strolling through the lobby, they glance at battered, traumatized students, who look like they barely escaped the abyss with their lives. Suddenly they lock eyes with Shi Chen and his crew chilling near the back of the room. Chung immediately smirks, instantly assuming the rival squad chickened out and fled the dungeon. Yu and Zhu are completely bundled up in heavy thermal blankets, shivering from the frost, while Ma Long and Si Chen casually sip on steaming cups of coffee. Strutting right up to Si Chen's squad, Chung immediately starts running his mouth, ruthlessly mocking them for failing the final exam. Sensing his lackey is about to cross the line, Ting snaps him back to reality sharply, whispering that the legendary Carl is in the building, and they need to show some damn respect. The heavy hitter Carl strides into view, slowly clapping his hands, while openly praising the absolute masterclass he just witnessed. Chung nearly has a heart attack. He knows exactly how terrifyingly powerful Carl is, and watching this titan approach instantly turns his knees to absolute jelly. Eager to impress, Ting extends his hand for a firm shake, but Carl brutally ignores him, breezing right past and leaving him hanging in dead silence. Carl marches straight up to Si Chen, showering him with praise and calling his performance downright spectacular. Ting stands there, utterly paralyzed, his brain short-circuiting, until he hears Carl congratulate Shi Chen for obliterating the cave in an unbelievable 21 minutes. Carl drops the bombshell that even a hardcore, fully maxed-out professional raid squad would struggle to pull off those insane numbers. Hearing that godlike completion time, Chung lets out a pathetic shriek of pure disbelief, while Shi Chen's crew respectfully bows to the VIP. Si Chen instantly recognizes the man. He knows full well that Carl is undisputed as the second strongest human walking the earth. But what totally baffles him right now is why a global power. Beaming with pride, Carl loudly declares that coming down here was worth every single second. Oh, right. He suddenly turns, throwing a bone to Ting from the prestigious Gong bloodline. After all, carrying a rookie squad through a D-ranked demon lair at his age is no small feat. Carl nods over at Lin, praising the older man for forging Ting into such a lethal weapon. Lin forces a polite smile to accept the compliment, but underneath his blood is boiling. Glancing at the time, Carl finally announces he needs to head out before the sun completely sets. Before stepping away, Carl playfully nudges Principal Long, joking that the old man absolutely struck gold. Finding this many top-tier prodigies packed into a single freshman class is basically like winning the lottery. Taking the stage, Instructor Wan grabs the mic to officially broadcast the final exam results for both heavyweight squads. He announces that since both units somehow managed to lock in a flawless maximum score, they are officially declaring an unprecedented dead heat for the Ultimate Championship title. This means every single member from both sides has earned an exclusive VIP pass into the legendary Empire Guild. Ma Long and the rest of the trio explode into hype, fully aware that they just secured a golden one-way ticket straight to the while Ting's fanboys lose their minds, cheering both Ting and Si Chen just stand there, keeping their poker faces completely frosty and unbothered. Wan then drops the final detail: Ting and Si Chen will be splitting the massive $1 million MVP cash prize right down the middle. Hearing that cuts Si Chen's hype fast. A wave of pure anxiety hits him, realizing he swore to pay Z back a full $1 million within 30 days. His mind races nervously, wondering if he will be forced to beg for an extension on that massive debt. Now his back is against the wall. He has to scrounge up another $500,000, and he needs it yesterday. Out of nowhere, Ting shatters the silence. He barks out that sharing the crown just isn't an option. Pointing straight at Si Chen, he aggressively demands a brutal. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Even Carl, halfway out the door, snaps his attention back to this massive curveball. Sean quickly closes the distance, fiercely whispering into Ting's ear, practically begging him to drop this reckless stunt, since the exam is completely wrapped up. He frantically reminds him that tying for gold is a flawless victory. Plus, there is zero chance Si Chen accepts an unhinged challenge like this. But Si Chen drops an absolute bombshell. He locks eyes with Ting and smoothly asks if the entire $1 million is on the table when he crushes him. Wan practically coughs up a lung in pure disbelief. Glaring back, Ting swears he will surrender every single dime if Si Chen actually pulls off a miracle. A wicked grin spreads across Carl's face. The grand finale just got completely rewritten, and he is entirely here for the bloodbath. Striding forward with absolute swagger, Si Chen closes in and dares Ting to set the... Once the explosive standoff cools down, Si Chen marches straight to the Mithril Exchange to confront Z about his massive debt. Z greets him with a stunned smirk, admitting he never imagined this kid would utterly obliterate the Academy's all-time records. Sure, he figured Si Chen might scrape a win, but now... The kid is blazed. Leaning back, Z silently celebrates his genius move in backing the right horse. The broker is feeling so generous that he actually wipes the slate clean, waving off the entire $1.5 million payback. He warmly tells the young prodigy to simply treat that colossal cash drop as an early angel investment. Si Chen doesn't even blink. He brutally shuts the offer down, strictly declaring that owed money is a binding contract and he always clears his tabs. Cutting to the chase, Si Chen announces he brought two pieces of heavy news. Number one, the fast-approaching due date. He demands a strict 7-day grace period, entirely because that unexpected deadlock choked his total winnings. Walking away with merely $500,000 was a massive gut punch to his carefully planned budget. But the real kicker, he just locked in a brutal winner-takes-all clash against his arrogant co-champion. 7 days from now, no rules. Deep inside the blood-curdling, untamed beast caverns lying just beyond the campus walls, Z's jaw practically hits the floor. Rookies plunging headfirst into a monster-infested den is absolutely unheard of. He frantically warns the boy that diving into that slaughterhouse without hardcore guild survival training is practically a death wish. Waving off the panic, Si-Chen guarantees total victory. Within 7 days, he promises to drag out the missing 500,000. On top of the raw cash, he vows to dump every single rare monster drop he rips from the cavern right into Z's lap. He smoothly pitches that mountain of loot as the ultimate compensation for delaying the deadline. Z just stares, completely mind-blown. The kid is marching into a meat grinder, yet his pulse hasn't hitched once. Instead of trembling about feral beasts, this madman is fiercely calculating. Shaking his head in awe, the broker realizes he isn't dealing with a normal student. This kid is an absolute... Before Z can recover, Si-Chen leans in, dropping the second, far heavier topic he needs to hash out. As the words pour out, Z gets absolutely blindsided. The sheer magnitude of the kid's insane proposal hits him like a freight train. He literally leaps right out of his leather chair, totally electrified. Meanwhile, across town, little sister Yun finally crushes her very last. A massive wave of relief washes over her, bursting with pure excitement as her sweet summer freedom officially kicks. Suddenly, a spark lights up her eyes. Today is the massive make-or-break day for her big brother's academy survival. Nostalgia hits her hard. She flashes back to that golden afternoon when he tore open his acceptance letter, sending them. Back then he carried blinding ambition, swearing to crash his way into a premier guild, pull them out of the gutters, and give her the world. More than anything, he saw it as the ultimate key to finally dragging their missing parents' dark, twisted secrets out into the light. She remembers cheering him on so fiercely, absolutely convinced he was destined to explode onto the scene as a legendary powerhouse. But reality was incredibly cruel. When his powers stubbornly refused to spark their bright, beautiful dreams, even so, the guy is made of iron. Instead of shattering, he slapped on a brave, unshakable grin to shield her from the pain. He promised his little sister that he would grind himself to the bone if it meant keeping a roof over their heads. And he absolutely kept his word. Enrolling into the academy, yet the universe still mocked him. Out of thousands, he stood dead last. The sole tragic outcast, locked out of magic. Her heart aches heavily at the thought. Standing completely powerless in a sea of titans, her brother must have endured unimaginable crushing. Lost in her own thoughts, the unawakened Yun suddenly jolts back to reality as a friend playfully shoves her shoulder. Her classmate leans in, buzzing with the latest gossip about 2 absolute prodigies emerging from the National Awakener University. Apparently, these unstoppable powerhouses guided their squads to flawless scores, even drawing the legendary Carl out to personally sing their praises. The friend chatters on, hyped that the breaking news is plastered everywhere, and their quiet city is about to blow up in popularity. Just as she starts asking about Yoon's older brother, a flashy pink-haired pretty boy struts over and interrupts them. The school idol flashes a confident smirk, boasting that he locked down the exclusive Zai Feng penthouse and expects Yun to meet him there by 8 p.m. Yoon's friend drops her jaw, completely stunned that her low-profile bestie is secretly rubbing elbows with the most popular guy on campus. Instead of answering, Yoon just stares blankly before sprinting away, leaving both her wannabe Romeo and her friend standing there speechless. Dashing down the street, her mind races with worry for her brother. Certain he must be crushed over being the only student who failed to awaken his powers. She resolves to rush back and cook up an absolute banquet, desperately hoping a home-cooked meal will lift his shattered spirits. Later that evening, Si-Chen walks through the front door, stopping dead in his tracks when he spots the massive, mouth-watering spread Yoon whipped up. Totally bewildered, he asks how on earth she managed to prep such a ridiculous amount of food on a school night. Not waiting for an answer, he dives right into the feast, absolutely demolishing every single dish within arm's reach. Right behind Yoon, the living room television blares a special report covering the explosive graduation combat trials. While the broadcast rolls on, Si-Chen happily stuffs his face, but Yoon just watches him with pity, convinced he is putting on a brave front. She assumes he is secretly dying inside, well aware that, yet he munches away without a single trace of sadness. Suddenly, the news anchor's voice spikes in excitement, announcing a historic tie for first place, a miracle outcome that almost never happens in these brutal exams. The anchor gushes about Vice Chairman Carl praising the two brilliant squad leaders, building up the suspense before finally dropping their names. The moment Yoon catches her brother's name ringing from the speakers, she whips her head around, refusing to trust her own ears. Her eyes lock onto the glowing screen reality crashing down as she realizes the legendary student who bagged a flawless score is her own flesh and blood. Meanwhile, in a much darker corner of the city, a furious Lin viciously thrashes his son for choking, especially after rigging the entire system in his favor. He screams about pulling strings to get Carl there, only for Ting to fumble the bag and hand the spotlight over to a random nobody. Boiling with rage that a total peasant stole their glory, the ruthless father whips his heir until his back is a bloody, mangled mess. Tossing the weapon aside, Lin coldly informs the trembling boy that his days of making independent choices are officially over. The corrupt patriarch reveals he has already manipulated the upcoming tiebreaker match, scheduled to pop off, and glaring down at his pathetic son, Lin vows to handle the dirty work himself, since the boy proved completely useless. He ruthlessly declares that the championship trophy belongs to the Gong bloodline, no matter who he has to crush to get it, proving just how utterly toxic their family truly is. Cutting back to the cozy apartment, a shell-shocked Yun slowly pivots back toward her chewing brother. Voice shaking, she asks if the national broadcast is actually talking about him. Without missing a beat, Shi Chen shrugs and casually mumbles between bites, wondering why she is making such a massive deal out of it. The silver spoon slips from her trembling fingers, clattering against the floor, as her brain short-circuits at his newfound fame. She simply cannot fathom that the mighty vice chairman of the Guild Alliance publicly hot tears stream down her cheeks. Overwhelmed with joy that the sibling everyone treated like absolute dirt just violently clawed his way to the absolute peak. At that exact moment, Carl holds a secret briefing with the elite operative Ling Yu, codenamed Kite, demanding an immediate status update. She quickly debriefs him, laying out every shred of intel she scraped together, hunting the elusive Pivoting the conversation, she brings up Si Chen, highlighting how the kid's combat prowess just skyrocketed overnight without any logical flagging it as highly suspicious. She promises to keep his consciousness plummets straight back into the dream realm, eager to conquer the brutal nightmare tower once more. Having grinded on this merciless first floor for over 14 grueling days, he has essentially eradicated every single beast roaming the zone. Better yet, his muscles have perfectly adapted to the crushing pressure of the 10 times gravity environment. Following the intense graduation skirmish, his deadly lightning assassin class naturally evolved, earning a brand new star. That sudden upgrade made him realize a crucial mechanic: spamming a specific class in actual combat rapidly maxes out its mastery level. This changes everything, proving that none of the 4 combat classes he currently wields have even scraped their true ceilings. He instantly dumps that freshly earned star straight into his agility stat, jacking up the most lethal attribute any shadow-dwelling assassin could ever. Right now he realizes his agility alone is already hitting A-rank assassin territory. Yet, despite that insane swiftness, he still hasn't crushed the first floor boss. Turns out the Lion King's skill set is incredibly bizarre. Every single time Shi Chen spots a blind spot and lunges for the kill, the beast instantly vanishes, materializing right beside a lioness, way out of striking distance. The pack constantly shifts their footing to match his movements, but their core battle formation is absolutely unbreakable. 2 females always lock him down in brutal melee combat, while the remaining pair stalks him from the perimeter. Meanwhile, the alpha purposely hangs back at maximum range. For a supposed floor boss, this guy absolutely refuses to get his own claws dirty. This cowardice seriously has Shi Chen questioning what on earth the monster's actual class could be. Suddenly, a lioness lunges straight for his throat. But the split second his blade is about to slice flesh, poof, it dissolves into thin air. The phantom cat reforms right next to the alpha. And the moment Shi Chen pumps the brakes, a different female dives in, trying to bait out another strike. It's a relentless, looping cycle. They maintain flawless positioning, leaving absolutely zero room for mistakes. They just keep swarming him, teleporting away right before the blade connects, dragging him into an exhausting, endless war of attrition. Shi Chen is absolutely boiling with rage. This oversized house cat is just playing twisted games with him. Then, it hits him. A sudden flash of insight. He realizes he's been acting like a total idiot trying to outpace a monster in a pure speed contest when he has a much deadlier trick up his sleeve. Launching himself high into the air, he instantly swaps to his skeleton Frost King persona. Time to let a heavy-hitting mage handle this coward. Since the alpha refuses to brawl face-to-face, Shi Chen unleashes a brutal barrage of jagged ice spikes down on the pride, forcing the panicked lionesses to scramble back to their king to act as meat shields. Everyone knows spellcasters are squishy in a fistfight, but man, they absolutely dominate in long-range crowd control. The relentless hailstorm of frozen daggers pins the beasts into a tight, clustered corner, which is exactly where Shi Chen wants them. Now that they're boxed in, he starts cooking up a massive, pulsating ice bomb. The sheer magical pressure terrifies the Lion King, because the beast finally realizes it's trapped. Checkmate. The second the payload reaches maximum power, he drops it. Boom! A deafening, catastrophic explosion rocks the blast instantly flash freezes the entire pride into solid ice statues, including that incredibly... With the boss immobilized, Shi Chen seamlessly switches back to Rakshasa form, channeling his energy into one devastating, heavy-handed cleave that cleanly slices the frozen Lion King straight down the middle. With the alpha obliterated, the remaining lionesses disintegrate into golden dust. Shi Chen's experience bar skyrockets, rocketing him straight from level 16 all the way up to 24. He instantly bags some premium loot 4 fragments of Phantom Spirit Lion Bone, plus a glowing Phantom Spirit Lion Heart. The system chimes in, prompting him to devour the boss's remains. Without a second thought, he initiates the absorption, burning with curiosity to uncover what the hell this tricky monster's class act. He drains every last drop of the alpha's essence. The energy condenses, morphing into a shiny new power card, finally revealing the secret class. Turns out it packs 2 distinct skills: Astral Spirit Pact and Astral Orbit Jump. The Spirit Pact allows the user to force a binding contract onto a monster, giving a percentage chance to enslave it as a permanent pet. The more terrifying the user's aura, the higher the success rate. Oh, and here's the catch. If the master bites the dust, the pet goes down with them. On the flip side, Orbit Jump burns mana to instantly teleport directly to your pet or yank them straight to your location. Shi Chen's eyes widen. A Beastmaster class. This is completely new territory for him. Suddenly all the puzzle pieces snap together. No wonder the Lion King avoided a fair fight like the plague. Its personal combat skills are actually complete garbage, meaning it had to hide behind its enslaved pack to deal any real damage. Still, he's got to hand it to the boss. That spatial warping trick is insanely overpowered. Plus, the ability to forcibly dominate any wild monster is a game changer. But since it demands a soul-crushing level of intimidation, Shi Chen realizes he's going to have to tap into his most ruthless, villainous side. Just as that thought settles, the dungeon environment violently shifts, dissolving into a scorching, endless wasteland. Looking around, Shi Chen smirks. He's finally witnessing the true. This bizarre twist leaves him completely baffled, his mind racing to piece together. Seconds later, the heavy gateway to the second floor materializes out of thin air. But right as he lifts his foot to cross the threshold, an eerie, unseen gaze pierces his back. Whipping around, he spots a tiny, trembling lion cub, locked down by heavy chains inside a skeletal cage. Stunned that anything survived the carnage, Shi Chen summons a crackling blade of lightning, fully prepared to execute the beast. But a sudden realization stops him dead in his tracks. He slaughtered the Phantom Lion King, yet this little guy is still breathing. That proves one absolute truth: this cub was never bound to the boss. Glancing closer at the glowing, ethereal shackles digging into its fur, the horrific reality hits him. The Phantom King was holding this baby hostage. With a swift, blinding arc, Shi Chen swings his lightning blade. But instead of drawing blood, he shatters those oppressive binds, setting the little creature completely free. A wave of profound pity washes over him. He knows exactly what it feels like to be stranded in a hostile world, entirely stripped of family. It is a heartbreaking reality. Si-Chen locks eyes with the cub, warning it that a harsh, solitary road lies ahead, and it will have to fight tooth and nail just to survive. Yet just as he turns back to the portal, a sudden prompt flashes across his vision. A beast contract request initiated by the cub itself. The system chimes in, displaying a flawless 100% success rate. Scanning the stats, he discovers the fierce feline first sealing the pact heavily boosts the pet's raw stats, and absolutely every single drop of experience earned by the loyal companion feeds directly back to its master. The second perk is a tactical lifesaver. If the cub ever falls into peril, Si-Chen can instantly hijack its vision and see through its eyes. Si-Chen spins back around, utterly jaw-dropped. Forging a bond with the legendary Lion King Leo was the absolute last thing he expected. Crouching down, he asks the cub if it truly wants to tag along. Leo responds with a fiery, spirited roar, enthusiastically sealing the deal. But Si-Chen doesn't sugarcoat it. He warns Leo that from this second onward they are storming the hellish upper floors of the Devil Tower, where a single misstep guarantees a gruesome end. He stares intensely at the cub, making it crystal clear that death is a very real hazard, demanding to know if the tiny beast is genuinely ready to bleed. Unfazed, Leo belts out another fearless battle cry, fired up by that raw courage. Si-Chen mentally accepts the prompt, locking in their unbreakable bond. With their fates now tied together, he gestures toward the glowing gateway, signaling that the second floor awaits. He gives Leo one final stern order: stay alive and guard its own back while he slaughters the front line. The tiny lion nods, and emerging on the other side, they are instantly engulfed by a blistering hellscape of bubbling magma. The scorching temperatures are utterly suffocating, leaving Si-Chen gasping as his skin practically threatens to melt right off. Squinting through the oppressive heat haze, he braces himself, wondering what kind of demonic nightmare breeds out of the dead silent heat. A blinding strike erupts from the void. Zero time to dodge. Zero time to blink. A devastating blow completely vaporizes the center of his chest, instantly obliterating his life force. Gasping frantically for air, Si-Chen violently jolts awake. He scrambles to grip his chest, a cold, paralyzed. He is absolutely shell-shocked. He was slaughtered in a fraction of a second, entirely blind to whatever horrific monstrosity claimed his life. As he frantically tries to process the brutal trauma, a familiar, soothing voice snaps him back to reality. It's his younger sister, shouting from the hallway. Stumbling into the dining room, his jaw hits the floor. The table is absolutely overflowing with a mouth-watering, king-sized banquet prepared by her. Grabbing her bag to head out the door, Yoon drops a firm mandate. He better scrub every single dish in that sink once he finishes stuffing his face. She also tacks on a strict 30-minute timer for him to hang up the freshly washed laundry. Totally baffled, Si-Chen asks why on earth she is sprinting out of the house. Summer break literally just kicked off. Yoon casually throws over her shoulder that she is off to clock in at her summer gig. This hits him like a ton of bricks, considering he clearly assured that they were finally rolling in enough cash to kick. Flashing a brilliant smile, Yoon proudly declares that since her big brother is rapidly climbing to the top, she absolutely refuses to be dead weight. Plus, she would honestly be bored to tears if she stayed cooped up inside the house all summer long. Before he can even attempt to argue, she bolts out the front door, leaving a final, echoing reminder about his laundry duties. Left alone in the quiet house, Si-Chen obediently tackles the household chores. A warm, affectionate grin spreads across his face, fully acknowledging that his stubborn little is a relentless force of nature. Despite being just a kid, she somehow manages to mother her incredibly overpowered older brother. Scrubbing the last plate, a darker thought creeps in. Once this peaceful school life wraps up, he is inevitably going to face a brewing storm, meaning his days of playing full-time bodyguard for his sister are strictly numbered. Panic gnaws at him whenever he pictures Yoon left all alone. But then a brilliant, reckless idea sparks in his mind. Diving deep into his mental sanctuary, he rips open his inventory, and out tumbles Leo, right onto the floor. Si Chen stares in pure disbelief. He actually pulled a contracted beast straight out of the dream realm, and this little guy, he wastes zero time. Channeling peak kitten energy, Leo absolutely shreds the entire room. Watching the chaos unfold, a light bulb goes off for Si Chen. Why not use this little menace as Yoon's personal shadow? That way, the second trouble finds her, his internal alarm will scream. Plus, Yoon has been totally obsessed with stray pups and kittens since she was a toddler. Handing her a miniature lion, she'll be completely over the moon. But while he is lost in thought, Leo manages to decimate the rest of the house, turning the kitchen into an absolute war zone. Later that evening, the shadows conceal a brutal bloodbath. A terrified Awakened desperately battles a cloaked nightmare, a monster wielding the... But it is a total slaughter. The poor guy is just a fragile toy against this towering monstrosity. As the last breath leaves his lungs, the creature's horrifying visage burns, unmasking it as one of the legendary demon kings, almost certainly the dreaded Lan Yu. Meanwhile, miles away, Yoon drags her exhausted feet through the evening chill. Her legs are practically turning to jelly from standing up all day. But as she cuts through a dimly lit alley, a familiar silhouette freezes her right in her tracks. Stepping out of the darkness is none other than Jin Duoxing, that flashy pink-haired campus idol, who just wouldn't take no for an answer. Flashing a sickeningly sweet smile, Duoxing whines about how she bolted from school so fast last time she completely missed his grand romantic gesture. But he generously offers her a second chance, bragging that he could still buy out an entire luxury venue just for them tonight. Yoon, however, is fighting the urge to gag. Just breathing the same, narrowing her eyes, she demands to know how on earth he tracked down her neighborhood. Puffing out his chest, the rich kid casually drops that his dad runs the first hospital. Pulling a few shady strings to hunt her down was absolute child's play. Disgusted, Yoon pivots on her heel. She coldly orders him to lose her address, making it crystal clear that they exist in entirely different universes. His fragile ego shatters. Lunging forward, Duoxing violently grabs her arm, hissing about how much stupid effort he poured into orchestrating this perfect evening. He even paraded the plan in front of all his rich buddies. If she ghosts him now, she is publicly spitting on his pride. Yoon shoots daggers right into his soul. With absolute ice in her voice, she asks why she owes an ounce of respect, because camping outside a girl's private residence in the dead of night. That is hardcore stalker behavior. Duoxing absolutely snaps. He barks back, demanding to know who she thinks she is, to actually accuse. He plays the classic victim card, claiming he was just showering her with kindness, only for her to mercilessly stomp all over it. Dropping the nice guy act, he screams right in her face, threatening to brutally force her into submission in less than 3 minutes. Bad move. Yoon's fury ignites and she fiercely launches her. Duoxing collapses to the concrete, clutching his throbbing face in agony. Standing over him, Yoon sarcastically advises him to book a brain scan at his daddy's hospital, because he is clearly out. Leaving him groaning in the dirt, she furiously storms off, throwing one last warning to never cross her path. The moment she kicks off her shoes at home, all that lingering rage magically melts away. Yoon, she drops to her knees, aggressively cuddling the fluff ball, squealing about how insanely cute this little magical beast is. Chuckling, Si Chen formally introduces the little guy as Leo. He then casually drops the bomb that Leo is her new permanent roommate. Young's jaw practically hits the floor. She actually gets to raise a living baby lion. Running her fingers through its fur, she marvels at how incredibly long his mane is for a mere cub. After all, she was totally convinced only fully grown kings of the jungle. But who cares about biology? She is already rambling about rushing down to City Hall to grab a magical beast adoption license so she can legally claim him. Seeing her so fiercely protective of the cub lifts a massive weight off Si Chen's chest. With Leo standing guard, he finally knows. Right on cue, his phone buzzes. It is an official email from the Guild Supervisory Bureau. His application just got the green light. A sly grin spreads across his face. The dominoes are falling perfectly into place, and the only thing standing in his way now is crushing the upcoming tiebreaker. An ultimate showdown scheduled to pop off in exactly 6 days. Fast forward 6 intense days, and the morning of the blood-pumping trial finally dawns. The battleground of choice. The notoriously taking the center stage, Juan announces that the school's top brass spent hours debating before ultimately locking in the forest as their testing arena. He loudly confirms that the target demon cave is officially classified as a deadly D-rank zone, before finally turning his intent. Si-Chen and Ting are about to face their ultimate test inside the exact same demon dungeon. Unlike those controlled school arenas, this wild cavern is totally unpredictable, pushing the danger levels through to keep things from going completely sideways. 3 veteran guild raiders from the Dongshin Nation have been called in to serve as their personal examiners. These heavy hitters are shadowing our 2 candidates straight into the abyss. They aren't just there to babysit, though. Their real job is to judge every single move and dish out scores on the... Leading the pack is the white-haired Ivan, a solid C-rank Flora chanter. Then there's the hat-wearing nuclear shooter Caillou alongside the massive Yuta Sato, a heavy-hitting C-rank star warrior. Juan steps up, making it crystal clear that these 3 judges hold the keys to their final grades. Up in the VIP box, Lin flashes a sinister smirk, knowing he has rigged the whole board for his boy. Now he is just banking on those 3 examiners. Off to the side, Long raises an eyebrow, asking Carl why he is still hanging around when his vacation wrapped up 2 days ago. Carl just chuckles, claiming the showdown between Si-Chen and Ting is way too spicy to skip. It has been years since he has watched 2 absolute prodigies go for each other's throats, and he is eating up every second of it. Right on cue, Juan officially kicks off the trial, and the boys plunge into the shadowy depths of the demon cave. The moment they breach the entrance, the examiners instantly recognize the overgrown, twisted vines of a Flora-type dungeon. Out of nowhere, Si-Chen's demon heart pulses wildly, screaming at him that a high-threat beast is lurking nearby. His eyes widen in pure shock. This demonic artifact has literally never triggered an alarm like this before. But the terrifying blip vanishes in a flash, leaving him sweating over why a top-tier nightmare would be hiding in a pathetic D-rank zone. Shaking it off, the duo pushes deeper into the murky labyrinth, with their 3 judges trailing closely behind. The veteran raiders keep a tight formation, refusing to lose their targets in the suffocating pea soup fog. Without warning, a massive D-rank toxic cage ant erupts from the dirt. But Ting is already moving. Sato's jaw drops at the kid's blindingly fast reflexes. Still reacting is one thing. Surviving is another. The monstrous insect vomits a wave of flesh-melting acid, but Ting effortlessly slashes through the venom, closing the gap and cleaving the beast straight down the middle. He does not even give it a chance to twitch. Driving his blazing broadsword right through its core, Ting flexes his flaming aura after squashing the bug, prompting the judges to furiously scribble down points for his flawless counterattack. All 3 slap a perfect 10 on his scorecard, completely blown away by his textbook execution for a mere student. Meanwhile, Si-Chen is casually strolling through the dungeon, completely ignoring his rival's flashy execution. The examiners scoff, immediately writing him off as dead weight, since he did not even flinch at the ambush. Ting narrows his eyes, wondering what the hell his rival is hunting for. Up in the booth, Carl asks Long the exact same question, and Long hits the nail on the head. He smirks, pointing out that Si-Chen is looking for a way to steal the entire scoreboard in one sweeping move. Spot on. Si-Chen uncovers the main hive, casually jabbing his crackling lightning blade straight into the mound, triggering an absolute avalanche of furious ants. The pro examiners nearly choke on their own spit, horrified that this kid just kicked a literal hornet's nest. They start screaming their lungs out, reminding him that these are highly lethal D-rank predators. By aggravating the entire swarm, he just signed a death warrant for the whole. Ting suddenly realizes the insane gamble his rival is pulling, but it is way too late to stop him. In a blinding flash of azure lightning, Si-Chen vanishes, carving through the monstrous. When the dust settles, the entire colony is annihilated, leaving the 3 veteran judges absolutely paralyzed with shock. Their intel explicitly labeled this kid as a bottom-tier E-rank weakling. Yet he just utterly butchered a tidal wave of beasts that should have torn. Staring at the carnage, they instantly realize this boy is ridiculously overpowered. Now they are sweating bullets, having zero clue how to even. While the corrupt judges frantically invent excuses to dock his points, Carl is jumping out of his seat in the monitor room, absolutely hyped. He bursts into laughter, realizing Long called it perfectly. Carl is absolutely glued to the monitors, aggressively crunching on a bag of chips, just to keep his brain locked in on the exam. He geeks out over the sheer spectacle unfolding on screen, audibly wondering how on earth Ting is going to bounce back from this. Watching Carl fanboy over Shi Chen pushes Lin right to the edge. His face contorts, knuckles turning white as he clenches his fists in pure burning envy. Out of nowhere, bam! The broadcast feed cuts to static. Panic rips through the room. This is the second time. Out at the perimeter, the portal administrator breaks into a cold sweat, completely blindsided. Red warning lights flash violently as the mainframe glitches out, screaming that in the blink of an eye, the gaping maw of the abyss straight up evaporates into thin air, leaving the crew scrambling and utterly baffled. Deep underground, a chill crawls up Si Chen's spine. A voice echoes through the shadows. A voice he knows all too well. It's Wrath. Topside Juan is in full meltdown mode. He barks at the nearest tech to radio for heavy backup. A dreadful, sinking feeling. Back in the belly of the beast, a twisted, eerie melody begins to bleed through the cavern walls. Except, Si Chen realizes it isn't music at all. It's Wrath's twisted humming. His mind races, trying to connect the dots. Why is this psycho? Right on cue, the Demon Heart interface explodes with a barrage of blazing crimson alerts. The automated voice blares inside his head, warning that the localized corruption levels have hit. The hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Si Chen whips around his eyes, locking onto a foul presence stirring in the pitch-black tunnel behind them. A raspy, spine-chilling growl echoes out from the impenetrable darkness. The proctors freeze in their tracks, dread washing. A colossal, grotesque ant monstrosity sporting brutal, razor-sharp scythes for arms slithers out of the shadows. Its mandibles click violently as it mocks them, hissing out a sadistic greeting. It's utterly thrilled. Sato nearly drops his weapon in pure shock. A talking beast. That horrifying detail guarantees this nightmare is at least a C-class threat, maybe worse. Throwing caution to the wind, Sato vaults toward the front line, screaming at Si Chen and Ting to stay the hell out of the blast zone. He summons a crackling battle axe out of pure mana. But in a blinding flash before his brain even registers the movement, his entire right arm is severed. The insect had delivered a surgically precise, lightning-fast slash. Witnessing the brutal dismemberment, the remaining guards collectively lose their minds. Faster than they can blink, the beast drives its massive scythe straight through Ting's shoulder, coldly whispering that every single one of them is destined for the grave. But Ting goes absolute feral. Roaring in fury, he savagely snaps the creature's blade right off while it's still embedded in his flesh, leaving the monster utterly stunned. Pivoting on his heel, Ting launches a devastating roundhouse kick, launching the gargantuan, coughing up blood. Ting glares at Shi Chen and barks at him to stay out of it. By the sacred laws of raid combat, this oversized bug is his personal prey. Si Chen gives a subtle nod, immediately firing up his scanners to analyze the creature's combat power. The readouts confirm his suspicion. The panicked proctors scramble over, begging Si Chen to intervene before Ting bleeds out right in front of them. But Ting flat out rejects their help. Instead, he ignites his own bare hands, brutally searing his gaping wound shut. Watching this hardcore display, even the usually stoic Si Chen can't help but respect the kid's engulfed in a roaring inferno of aura. Ting glares at the bystanders with murderous intent. He coldly reminds them that they're surging with explosive white-hot energy. The fiery warrior rockets forward, throwing himself into a brutal collision course with the beast. Meanwhile, back up on the surface, heavy hitters have arrived. Lin Wu Kei, a seasoned strike commander from the elite Empire Guild, steps onto the chaotic scene. Analyzing the shattered portal data, he grimly informs Juan that they aren't dealing with mindless beasts. Something dangerously intelligent is pulling the strings down there. He warns them that this apex predator purposefully engineered a fake gate, using the rift as a massive fly trap for sweating bullets. Zhouan frantically demands a rescue strategy, reminding the veteran that the young prodigy Ting is currently locked inside that slaughterhouse. Wu Ke's expression darkens as he lays out the one and only brutal exit strategy left. The gate won't open from the outside. The strike team, hearing this, Zhouan visibly deflates, letting out a massive, shaky sigh of relief. He calculates the odds. A basic D-tier rift caps out at a C-tier, but Wu Ke immediately shatters his hope. He reveals that the D-tier danger rating was nothing but a brilliant smokescreen. The Alpha Beast deliberately manipulated the mana signatures to mask its true, terrifying power. Based on the forensic traces, the commander suspects that whatever is lurking in that abyss is the exact same nightmare responsible for the string of rookie awakeners vanishing without a trace. He urgently warns Xuan that every single soul trapped inside the dungeon is facing imminent doom, since the zone's threat level has suddenly skyrocketed to a B rank. Or possibly some. Meanwhile, deep inside the cavern's pitch, Ting locks into a brutal, high-stakes deathmatch against the towering ant monstrosity. The colossal insect violently thrashes its massive scythe-like claws straight, but Ting effortlessly weaves through every single lethal strike, dodging with absolutely godlike agility. Pushing through the chaos, Ting spots a split-second opening, and without an ounce of hesitation, he brutally severs the beast's head right off its shoulders. Watching the monstrous corpse hit the dirt, the examiners stand completely paralyzed in shock, unable to comprehend how Ting slaughtered the zone's boss entirely solo. They can't help but gasp in pure awe, absolutely blown away by his freakishly overwhelming strength. Off to the side during the frantic bloodbath, Ivan had been desperately channeling his magic to regenerate Sato's brutally amputated arm. But the brief moment of relief shatters. Panic erupts among the proctors as their compasses spin wildly out of control. To make matters worse, the surveillance drone completely blacks out. Without warning, the mangled corpse of the ant beast jerks back to life, launching itself straight at Ting. He instantly detects the looming threat, but his reflexes just aren't fast enough to dodge the ambush. Right before the creature's mandibles tear him to shreds, Si Chen flashes forward, slicing the monstrosity in half, and instantly bagging 2,000 experience points. Ting stands there utterly stunned. He had decapitated that very beast moments ago, yet its headless body was... Si Chen drops a bombshell, explaining that this insect was never the dungeon boss. It had been under a powerful mind control spell this entire time. That explains why its dead husk kept fighting. As he breaks down the situation, Shi Chen casually slips in his noise-canceling earbuds. He urgently orders the group to evacuate the lair right now, warning them that if they stay, they will be brainwashed by the true master's illusion. Ting demands to know how he figured all this out. The furious proctors also scream over the comms, insisting the giant ant is a C-rank menace. They claim there is absolutely no way that beast wasn't the final boss of this zone. Suddenly, the demon heart floods Si Chen's mind with blaring sirens, detecting a terrifying entity lurking nearby. A haunting melody fills the cavern, instantly placing everyone except Si Chen into a deep trance. He curses under his breath. He was a second too late. Fortunately, he recognizes this exact acoustic frequency, meaning he already has a countermeasure ready to go. In his past life, the terrifying entity known as Wrath weaponized this very sound wave to brainwash and butcher millions across the globe. Watching the four entranced teammates blindly march deeper into the abyss, Si Chen pieces it together. Faking a blank stare, he plays along, and tails the group, eager to uncover the true identity of this hidden overlord. The brainwashed squad soon reaches the cavern's deepest chamber. There, a grotesque monstrosity lounges on a throne, flanked by massive venomous serpents. Disgusting insect eggs litter the floor, mixed with the rusted weapons and bleached bones of fallen awakeners who failed this trial. Si Chen isn't the least bit shocked to confirm the creature is broadcasting the exact same alpha frequencies Wrath used for mind. That is exactly why he blasted beta waves through his earbuds, the perfect auditory shield against the attack. He knows his four companions are sitting ducks. Without ear protection, they could be slaughtered at any given second. Knowing the stakes, he resolves to assassinate the dungeon boss with maximum speed and extreme prejudice. Up on its throne, the Overlord drools profusely, anticipating the massive feast of fresh human meat walking right into its trap. The scene violently shifts to a childhood flashback. An 8-year-old Ting stands victorious after savagely beating his own brother Cheng. Their cold-hearted father watched the entire brawl, completely unfazed by the sight of his own children drenched in blood. He rewarded the winner by inviting Ting to the dinner table, while forcing a battered Cheng to kneel on the unforgiving floor all night long. Later in the dark, Cheng's stomach growled in agonizing hunger, until Ting quietly sneaked him a piece of bread. Startled by the kindness, Cheng panicked, warning his brother that their father would punish him severely if he caught them. Ting shushed him, urging him to just eat the damn food. But the old man inevitably discovered the betrayal, and the consequences were brutal. He mercilessly whipped Ting behind closed doors, barking that the Gong bloodline only rules the world because they prioritize victory above all else. He drilled a harsh lesson into the boy: only true champions earn the privilege to dictate how the world works. Lin glared down at his bleeding son, declaring that since Ting wasn't the boss yet, he had to obey his father's twisted laws. Spitting blood, Ting shot back with a defiant smirk, asking if he could make the rules once he finally crushed. A sinister smile crept across Lin's face. In response to the challenge, he threw Ting into a pit against a deadly fighter. Wuka absolutely demolished the boy with a single devastating blow. The impact sent Ting crashing hard into the dirt. Violently gasping for air, he protested, screaming that he challenged his father, not some hired muscle. Lin coldly corrected him, stating that his true power wasn't measured by how hard he could swing a sword. Instead, it was defined by the terrifying, absolute authority he wielded over others. He mocked his son's naive worldview, explaining that society's laws are far more brutal and complex than a simple duel. But through all the chaos, one universal truth remains: winning is everything. He emphasized that the dirty tactics you use do not matter in the slightest as long as you walk away with the crown. As the heir to his empire, Ting was ordered to claw his way to the absolute peak. Lin demanded total domination at any cost, driving home the twisted belief that victory was the sole reason Ting was even born. Echoing those haunting memories, Ting silently questions his own existence, wondering if securing a win is truly his only snap back to reality. Si Chen locks his sights on the dungeon lord, ready to strike, but Ting snatches his wrist, hissing at him to hold back. Ting admits he has no clue how Si Chen dodged the mind control, but reveals he hacked his own escape route. The secret: pure, agonizing pain. He had gouged his own fingers into a fresh wound, using the searing agony to shatter the monster's psychic hold. He warns the lightning user that charging in blindly right now will seal everyone's bloody fate. Nodding toward the grotesque ant eggs, Ting mutters that one wrong move will awaken 12 rank C nightmares. A deadly swarm that would butcher them all in seconds. Scanning the cavern, the grim reality sets in. This dungeon boss cloaked its true domain as a pathetic, low-tier raid. A filthy trap designed to swallow naive awakeners whole and siphon their. Ting's strategy: play dead. He urges them to melt into the shadows and wait for the grotesque overlord to expose its neck, biding their time until the beast creeps right into their kill. Si Chen smirks at the clever tactic, but grimly shatters the illusion. It is a flawless plan, except for one fatal flaw. This boss does not even need to throw a punch to slaughter their squad. Suddenly, a maddening melody echoes through the cave. Under the hypnotic rhythm, Sato and the crew draw their blades, turning the cold steel against their own throats. But before a single drop of blood spills, Si Chen detonates a targeted lightning burst, shocking his allies unconscious. The dungeon lord recoils in disbelief, furious that its twisted puppet show was ruined. The enraged overlord screeches, commanding its dormant spawn to rise. Disgusting cracks echo around them as the massive pods rupture, unleashing Every single crawler is a deadly rank C threat, and they instantly surge toward our heroes without missing a beat. Ting plants his feet. He yells at Si Chen to drag the unconscious squad out of this hellhole. vowing to hold the front line alone. Si Chen freezes, totally caught off guard by this selfish rival suddenly throwing himself onto the sacrificial altar. Ting grits his teeth, admitting he does not stand a chance against a tide of this magnitude, but he swears to buy them enough precious seconds to escape. A screeching insect launches through the air, only to be blasted back by the blazing fury of Ting's roaring sword. He screams that this bloodbath is completely on him, since he arrogantly demanded the stupid tiebreaker round. Dripping with blood and barely standing, Ting braces for death, determined to trade his life for the squad's survival. He glares back, roaring that he ignited this nightmare, so he is going to be the one to extinguish it. Right then, Si Chen steps up. Dripping with pure, unadulterated swagger, he instantly shifts into his lightning assassin class. Lethal blue voltage erupts around him, forging a crackling blade of pure energy, as he casually reminds Ting that it takes two to agree to a duel. So he shares the blame. Ting gasps, his eyes going wide as he chokes on the suffocating aura of raw, terrifying pressure, surging wildly from Si Chen's crackling silhouette.